Welcome back once again to OPC Season 2. I'm AVRL, joined with me this evening as Pixie, as we're about to head into the second match of the evening. Hong Kong Attitude taking on Flash Wolves.
Look, I'll say it once, I'll say it again. Hong Kong Attitude still haven't beaten Flash Wolves, despite their brilliant run that really started about at the halfway point of Season 1. And of the teams from Season 1, they're the only one they haven't beaten. There is now also Ardian in the mix, but look, first you want to take out Flash Wolves. This is their last chance to do it in the regular season of play here. If they don't do it now, they're going to have to do it in playoffs somehow.
And they haven't taken down Ardian either, so this is the last team they have left on their hit list that they can still take down before the playoffs. So it is going to be Flash Wolves now and Hong Kong Attitude. A couple words from both sides before we get into the match.
这边有话要跟阿吉说，请不要奶我们好吗？会赢的变成打稳赢的局，变成可能会打得有点辛苦。
So Jinkao says, hope you can go easy on us today. It feels like we have a pretty good shot at winning today, but it will be really hard.
我觉得就是从开季以来到现在，我们队伍状况一直不是很稳定。对，那
So we've been pretty shaky in terms of our gameplay and results so far. So just excuse the technical difficulties there for a moment.
And, well, speaking of shaky, I mean, Flash Wolves did recently pick up a loss to AHQ. That was pretty significant because it was the turning point for AHQ's resurgence now in this tournament. But also that's a big shake-up for Flash Wolves as well, who really since Season 1 finals have been untouchable, despite even having a bit of a shaky start to Season 2. The only team that was still regularly besting them was actually Ardian until that loss against AHQ. So that's actually what Flash Wolves come into this with. So arguably for Hong Kong Attitude, this is the Flash Wolves that is the most within striking distance. Also in terms of where they currently stand in the tables, second place plays third place for the semi-finals, with first playing at third. So the thing for Hong Kong Attitude, assuming they finish the regular season at third place as well, which by the way isn't guaranteed, they may end up losing that spot to AHQ still, but assuming they do finish third, they would have to come up against Flash Wolves in the semi-finals. So if you can't beat them here, you do have to question your ability to beat them in semi-finals. But actually on the side of Flash Wolves, if they pick up a loss here, then you've got to consider that Flash Wolves may not actually make it into the grand finals.
That'll be certainly a bit of an upset with Flash Wolves coming into Season 2 as one of the heavy favourites as the Season 1 champions. But also, you have to consider, you've already mentioned this, AHQ beat Flash Wolves already. So AHQ kind of setting the standard here for what's kind of acceptable for those teams in the sort of upper section, but still roughly in the middle of the pack. And for Hong Kong Attitude leading the charge on that as the current number 3 team, they need to be beating Flash Wolves when the current number 4 team, AHQ, have already done that.
And that's the other part of that as well, right? Flash Wolves, they've already lost to AHQ, so yeah, especially if they lose to Hong Kong Attitude, you'd be worried, right? Because if Hong Kong Attitude win, like I said, it's still possible that AHQ maybe takes third instead of Hong Kong Attitude if they beat Hong Kong Attitude and other results fall a certain way. The reality is, at that point, you're Flash Wolves in second place, and you don't want to play either of the two teams below you in the standings because actually they're both beating you, but you're guaranteed to play one of them in the semi-finals. You actually have to pick up a win here and then hope that Hong Kong Attitude makes semi-finals, because then you actually have a stronger chance of beating them than you would potentially have beating AHQ based off match history.
Well, I do want to talk a little bit more in detail about some of the players and the teams here, so let's take a look at and get to know exactly who the members are on both of these sides. And when we get a chance to do that, and we're going to start things off with Hong Kong Attitude. So the team mostly comprised of the Season 1 Hong Kong Attitude minus K4, bringing in Mui, with Randy coming in onto the core starting lineup and Holiday Cow, otherwise known as Jin Cow, onto the bench. We did see some Jin Cow, or rather Holiday Cow action yesterday, but I'm expecting Randy to come out today because that is the A lineup for Hong Kong Attitude.
Yeah, we don't know just yet though, so we will be able to find out for sure whether they're going to be pulling out Holiday Cow or Randy. But on the other side of that, of course, Flash Wolves unchanged since Season 1 and looking just as good. If anything, actually, this patch has really helped them out. So if we talk about teams that have done well on this patch, you have to consider AHQ among that number as well, and part of that was in beating Flash Wolves. But actually, Flash Wolves were one of the teams that also looked super comfortable. They started to really get a handle on the Doomfist type compositions about partway through the first round robin. Weren't great on it straight out the gate, but looked really good on it towards the end of it. And now with the change in, they've actually become one of the few teams still running a Doomfist, and they've done so to great effect.
It'll be interesting to see if they continue running that, because we are sort of in the space of the current meta where teams like Ardiant have adapted to the space where Doomfist is a maybe option for them. We did see Ursa bring it out on Hanamura, but other than that, Ursa's been playing a lot of different stuff, including Soldier and Genji. So for a team like Flash Wolves that have somewhat of a similar hero pool, are we going to still see some of the Doomfist coming out, or is Bacon Jake going to be sticking mostly onto the Tracer? And actually, when you really compare the teams together, both of these teams between Hong Kong Attitude and Flash Wolves have similar playstyles, similar strategies, and that's what's going to make this very interesting. And now even more so, players at a similar level.
Yeah, that's the actual major thing that I think is a factor here, is that players at a similar level aspect, because Hong Kong Attitude should arguably be taking the award for most improved team. Unfortunately, because it would be stretched across 2 seasons, it's hard to give that award.
Yeah.
Because you look at these players on an individual basis and the level they have improved. The fact that Shaolin has gone from where he started, which wasn't at all bad, mind you, to now really being one of the top tracers in this tournament, very much able to contest Bacon Jack and often actually come out the better of him. You've got to consider that. You've also got to consider players like their main tank, Ting, who has really cleaned up his play since their first few performances in Season 1, where honestly he was a bit of a weak link of the team at times. On the whole, this team has had massive improvements. Flash Wolves themselves have had big improvements, but they started from a higher base point and they've pushed a slightly less distance total. So Hong Kong Attitude have very much caught that up. And like we said, every single time they've played, both against Flash Wolves and against these other teams in every metric, they've come closer and closer to at last besting Flash Wolves. This is their final chance to do so in this round robin.
And we haven't seen Flash Wolves for a little bit now, so they've had a little bit of time to go away and work on themselves. And for a team like Flash Wolves, what are these strengths here? You have to go back to Bacon Jake, still one of the best tracers in the competition. When you put him on Doomfist, he's good, but now Doomfist taking a bit of a hit in the Rocket Punch direction, and also with the fact that Bacon Jake is still considered one of the best tracers, you need to really be putting him on his best hero here. For guys like Zonda as well, he's been a little bit shaky on some of the picks, but his McCree has been solid overall, and his Soldier is nothing to sleep on either.
Unless he gets hit by a sleep dart.
Well, that just speaks for everyone.
That's the only exception. And I do believe as well, it is going to be Randy playing on the side of Hong Kong Attitude tonight, and not Holiday Cow. So Holiday Cow, I don't know, he got like his...
On another holiday.
He got his, another holiday. He got his 1 honorary performance yesterday against Liberate Supreme, I think it was. Maybe was it Matchy?
Yeah, it was Liberate Supreme.
It was Liberate Supreme, so there we go. And yeah, now back on holiday. It's interesting, he's actually the team captain, so he still actually has a very active role in the team as well, so make no mistake. Also gives that opening words as well, like the initial trash talk. He's in charge.
There's not a lot of trash. He's been very diplomatic about it.
Yeah, as far as trash goes, he's very responsible. Like, he separates out his recyclables and all that.
Right.
But he is in charge of that. So that's kind of one of his roles.
In fact, if anyone's giving the trash talk from Hong Kong Attitude, it's been their coach Jay specifically coming in. So he's been the one firing the shots at the other teams. It's been Holiday Cow, though, just kind of... I just want everyone to do well and let's just have a good game. So
now, actually, there's another thing I do want to just mention here. It's kind of conjectural to this matchup, but it is worth mentioning because we've also talked about Flash Wolves losing to AHQ and Hong Kong Attitude wanting to still be able to beat Flash Wolves here. One of the things that's been, I suppose, a symptom of this team's meteoric rise has been their ability to beat AHQ now 3 times running. They have yet to actually play them in this final round robin. So actually a loss here, given that they're not necessarily guaranteed to beat AHQ anymore with how good AHQ looked against Flash Wolves, means that they're actually in a position where they could start to drop down into that 4th place, and any further shaky performances, for example, something like a loss to Blank, any other upsets in the standings, could actually still have them dropping out of playoffs. So they still have to be very, very careful. Every single win is going to count, and the only wins they've got left to pick up are going to be the hard ones. The ones against teams like Flash Wolves right now, against teams like AHQ. Even Blank still really have to be respected as they sit in that 5th place spot. So Hong Kong Attitude comfortably 3rd for a while now, but still not guaranteed to make playoffs.
Well, this is when Hong Kong Attitude can take that shot against Flash Wolves. A, you get them off that hit list, and B, you also potentially overtake them. Flash Wolves, they're still a little bit shaky right now. Their coach already said that when in the pre-match interview, Ray wasn't too sure how Flash Wolves are looking performance-wise. This needs to be a match now for both teams to prove their worth. Who really is the current #2 team in OPC?
I just want to say as well, by the way, if Hong Kong Attitude win here, then they lose to AHQ, and then blank beat Flash Wolves, then actually Flash Wolves would be 4th. That would be a very real possibility, just by the way. So actually, on the other side of this, Flash Wolves have to really watch out for Hong Kong Attitude tonight. Hong Kong Attitude definitely want to pick up that win, but if it's Flash Wolves who therefore walk away with a loss, they have to be really careful with what matches they do still win and lose throughout the rest of this regular season. Because as much as they don't really want to have to come up against AHQ or Hong Kong Attitude in the semifinals, they definitely don't want to come up against Ardiant.
And that's going to be important for Hong Kong Attitude now for the reason that you've sort of mentioned. And it is interesting that even this deep into the regular season, it's not even really that secure exactly who finishes within that top 4. We do know that Ardiant right now is pretty firmly in the top 4. Whether they come first or second, that's going to be their end result. But for everyone else, things can change quite quickly, and it starts now.
And it starts on Lijiang Tower as well. Control traditionally Flash Wolves' weakest game mode as well. This is a good opportunity for Hong Kong Attitude to get one on the board to kick things off.
It's going to be the Mui, McCree versus Zonda Soldier. So everyone is on those best picks. We talk about the fact that Bacon Jack, we want to see him back on the Tracer, and he's certainly now showing that.
Good opening positioning by Hong Kong Attitude, but good pressure onto these tanks means Randy loses the mech. Bacon Jack as well closes out on a Ting, so that's the opening blow from Flash Wolves. It's not quite over just yet, but with the secure on Shailin, that means Flash Wolves get priority on the point itself as it unlocks now, and it should convert into a cap.
A big cleanup of kills. That's a full 6 members down in the Hong Kong Attitude size. Nice quick cap as well from the Flash Wolves, and very quick ultimate charge. Zonda did a lot of damage within that last fight. So did Bacon Jack. Both of these DPS players now very close to their ultimates. This could swing very quickly and very big for Flash Wolves.
Hong Kong Attitude need to get some big opening picks to get this one open now, like you said, because of those ultimates. So, wrapping around the backside of this one now. Good positioning to start with, but no conversion just yet. Flash Wolves are looking for it though. Pulse Bomb into the mix doesn't quite connect with anything. There's now a window for Hong Kong Attitude, but Zonda gonna close that window pretty quick, Smart, as unfortunately the defense matrix was down as Randy was getting demeched. That was a really great one from Zonda.
And despite Shailin not picking up kills with the Pulse Bomb, you have to understand exactly what the impact was. He softened targets up enough so that Zonda picked up the kills. You look at Randy's mech, it had no health left. He couldn't matrix because his mech was basically down by the time the tactical visor from Zonda came out, and then it was all over Hong Kong Attitude because they just didn't have the healing to keep up. They just didn't have the HP.
What they do have now is those DPS ultimates, even in terms of support ultimates. Oh, no connect from Shailin, and he goes down to Sinclair. These Flash Wolves already in control of this fight, and Hong Kong Attitude may just have to take that one on the chin. Indeed, they do. Looking to retreat safely now.
This is a strong showing from Flash Wolves, who, weren't too sure about their performance lately, but they can be sure about it, at least for now in the first stage of Lijiang Tower. Hong Kong Attitude, you're still waiting for them to make a move here. Certainly now they've killed Zonda, so they may just get that move finally.
Yeah, this is the opportunity to go. You're completely right. But Bacon Jack is trying to keep Mui out of the spiders. Mango Jai looking to get the team into the fight. But Randy a little bit too far forward in the fight now. As Flash Wolves still at the ultimates, kind of down pat as K-Momo. Great placement on the mech to catch CQB. And they're just getting one member and one member and one member. And on the whole, it is turning into these massive numerical advantages for Flash Wolves, able to hold down the fort through that one. And at 98%, I don't see any Hong Kong Attitude members around here. That is a clean 100-0 for Flash Wolves.
And it was basically Mango Jai in there who was picking up the kills on the Flash Wolves, because otherwise it was all Flash Wolves on the kill feed. Zonda got himself a very quick second tactical visor, a very effective one as well. And Hong Kong Attitude, despite getting those picks out of Mango Jai, despite the lead that they had originally, they just couldn't get the conversions, they couldn't get the additional picks after Zonda died. That should have been the opening for Hong Kong Attitude, but the window closed way too quickly.
And I'm going to be honest, that didn't look particularly even either. The last time these two teams met, Control itself was very even, and the series went to 5 games. this is not a promising start for Hong Kong Attitude. They really need to shake things up here on Night Market.
You are still expecting a little bit more, so it's going to be Mui now onto the Genji. Maybe this is what they need, but for Flash Wolves, back to the tried and true. We talk about the fact that this Soldier Tracer composition always looked like their plan B if your plan B is actually stronger than their plan A, but now
Yeah.
this is the real composition. If you can beat this version of Flash Wolves, you can beat any version of Flash Wolves.
Honestly, just excuse the pun, sticking to their guns here. Flash Wolves have the ground control as well in the forecourt. Hong Kong Attitude able to weather the storm though, can start to get into a bit of a position now as Flash Wolves make it for the point. This is Hong Kong Attitude pressing the go button, but a Ting a bit low. Good catch on the backside, and they keep a Ting alive. Zonda gonna wheel back around now, and Hong Kong Attitude still looking for their way into the fight, but Bacon Jack getting the pressure on these supports, staying alive as well, and they're getting the conversion on these frontliners of Hong Kong Attitude as well. Zonda and Bacon Jack, despite being low, have already done the groundwork they need. Actually, that's a good catch by Mui on the backside. And they're going to be able to start putting some pressure back on. Good capitalization from Hong Kong Attitude. It was a risky moment to go, but by going, they made it pay off.
Good counter trades as well. You got to commend Mui for that. He was the one that was able to pick up Zonda before Zonda heals himself back up. Bacon Jack was super low as well. He had to take himself out of that fight, and Mui picks up additional kills off the back. He ends up getting supports. He gets tanks as well. And all while that was happening, Flash Wolves never got themselves a cap on the points of Hong Kong Attitude. They get the first progress lead of the game.
They've also got a little bit more ult charge, generally speaking. Ideally, they want to make Flash Wolves commit some as well. They're going to go ahead and commit the Sound Barrier and Dragon Blade, but it's already paid off as they pick up two and a third one now in the form of Jongi. They don't quite pull any ultimates out of Flash Wolves, but they get the rest of theirs largely charged up. They're happy to take that one.
And this is the kind of Hong Kong Attitude performance you were expecting coming up against the Flash Wolves, who have been playing this now stage of Lijiangtao in Night Market. A little bit slower, a little bit more passively, waiting for their ultimates now to charge back up. Mui's Dragon Blade is off the table now, so it's time for Zonda to shine with his tactical visor.
K-Momo still just waiting to get the mech back, actually. He is going to get it, but that just burned off, a little bit more time for Flash Wolves.
Wait for Sinclair to get his Transcendence as well, though. It's going to be Flash Wolves now moving around the side flank, forcing the fight onto the camp itself is very important for Flash Wolves. Already threatening to camp out Hong Kong Attitude, only barely saving it.
Yeah, but the commit is now there. But this time, Flash Wolves have more ultimates defensively to play with. Now they've got the aggressive ones too as they catch a Ting. Realman, though, goes over the side. Unfortunately, as Zonda only getting one so far with that tactical visor. Does get Shailin, though, and that's the big change up. Mui needs to get a Dragon Blade, needs to get a lot of work done with it. But because the cap has already gone over, they're just going to pull back. And I think that is definitely the smart move from them.
And you got to respect the movements from Flash Wolves as well. Out-rotating Hong Kong Attitude in that situation. Hong Kong Attitude thought they were going to have a fight in the open space. Flash Wolves took them immediately onto the cap, and Hong Kong Attitude slow to respond. When Flash Wolves are already set up on the cap like that, Hong Kong Attitude then need to attack it like they actually don't have the cap itself. That puts Flash Wolves ahead.
Ooh, good follow-up onto Randy, but they don't quite get the close out, and that leaves K-Momo a little bit vulnerable as the self-destruct gets nothing. Mui only getting one with the Dragon Blade, but that is conversion, and they've already got the numbers advantage, so now they're able to take the rest of this fight. Need to turn it into pressure on the point, though, very quickly here, or Flash Wolves can get some respawns in. Now with Sinclair going down, and the good pressure on Jongi, who's cut off from his team, gonna have to take a dive. They're gonna get the point cap, and they're now one fight away from evening it up.
And that's a really important one fight is also for Hong Kong Attitude. Dragon Blade, once again, was the tool they needed. They have already used that one. Have to wait for now the Sound Barrier and Shailin's Pulse Bomb to really get the job done. Zonda changing onto the Doomfist as well. Flash Wolves seemingly out of options here. They don't have anything charged up. They're going to have to go into this fight ultless.
Yeah, it's a naked fight, basically, and those defensive ultimates could be the real swing.
Ouch.
Shailin smacks it down before Flash Wolves can even get it started with that double kill on the Pulse Bomb, and from there on out, it's all just clean-up duty. Hong Kong Attitude, that is the one fight that they needed, like I said, to even up now Lijiangtao.
And you have to consider the last time these two teams met, it was Lijiangtao, the first map we started with, and that was a Hong Kong Attitude victory. So now it needs to be Hong Kong Attitude repeating that victory. We talk about the fact that for some teams, there are maps that you can't afford to lose, and some maps you're expected to win. This map for Hong Kong Attitude is a map they're expected to win, and a map that Flash Wolves are expected to lose as a team that is not favored on control.
And speaking of expected, the one fight that Flash Wolves did win was again, actually the one they were expected to win. They also positioned very well, was a factor of that fight, but they had the ultimate advantage. If you were going to win any fight, it was that one. And then, of course, immediately afterwards, Hong Kong Attitude came back in and won it anyway. They were okay taking that isolated fight loss. It was Hong Kong Attitude in control there from start to finish.
Speaking of control, it's Flashwolves now with Zonda onto the McCree, so if they can take care of Mui, land the flashbangs on the Sombra play, this is how they can control the pacing of this next map, and they can get a very big lead here, but they need to shut down Mui. Already killing Mango Jai, though, is a good start.
And the pressure is out from Zonda. No one's really able to contest him here, unfortunately, as Mui is just trying to get this health pack control, at least to start with. Now he's pressured out by Zonda. Looking for him. He's invisible. Ooh, Zonda
greedy
overextended by a lot, yeah. But Bacon Jack closes down the kill on Mui anyway, so they are going to get the point cap as it unlocks.
It's good that the Flashwolves were able to sort of pick up the pieces there that's on the left behind. You don't want to be in a position where, as one of the main DPS players, you're way too far out of position. You don't have support backing you up. You don't have your tank set up to really meet shield for you either. So Zonda, play a little bit more patiently perhaps, but Bacon Jack and Shailin, though, this 1v1 could be quite important.
And Bacon Jack is really the one pressuring Shailin here, not the other way around. Looking to close out.
Outplayed.
Gets it, and that was just a straight outplay, like you said, 1 versus 1. Now the pressure on is Hong Kong Attitude. A little bit too far forward to retreat from this push on the point. They commit the EMP, but they haven't got too much follow-up. Do get the DMAC on K-Momo, but they've got to convert onto Zonda and Bacon Jack crucially. They do catch a couple more in the mix here, but again, struggling. Good closeout on Jongi, but the Deadeye could still swing it back around. They only need to get 1 or 2. Oh, but a little bit too stationary as Shailin goes just out of the sightline of that one. That means Hong Kong Attitude now unequivocally ahead of the fight. They can preserve Randy's life to get him back in the mech as they get the cap. This is looking much better for them now.
Well, the Flashwolves do save up a bunch of ultimates here, so yeah, we have a cap around, we have a flip around for the cap for Hong Kong Attitude in their favor, and Zonda was the only one that used an ultimate there. The rest of Flashwolves are nice and charged on an economy basis. They're looking fairly healthy. Shailin suicides his own pulse bomb as well. That's a big mistake.
That's huge, unfortunately, for Flashwolves if you're a Hong Kong Attitude fan. The reality is, Randy died to reset the mech, but actually it happened probably too late, then Mango Jai got picked. Look, that fight was already lost for Hong Kong Attitude. Shailin shouldn't have been committing a pulse bomb in the first place.
The best thing for Flashwolves is they save the 4 main ults here. Jedi doesn't come online for another while, and they're not going to really need it here. The big ones are both the support ultimates, but the Mui EMP is going to be a big factor already being used.
Yeah, instant conversion onto Jongi as well, and now the sound barrier is just to try and preserve Flashwolves. They get the pick on Mui though, but there is some more conversion still coming out of Hong Kong Attitude. They need to get onto Bacon Jack and Zonda, but they've forced the last defensive ultimate out of Sinclair, and now CQB can commit his own to get them to convert kills. Jongi's able to rejoin the fight, but the pressure is on Zonda just as the Deadeye was about to become available, and Ting is keeping this team relatively away from the fight. Now they're a little split up. They should be able to convert on K-Momo as Shailin trains down Jongi. That's a self-destruct to buy time so that K-Momo can reset the mech. It's going to be able to push them up to 99 as well, but Hong Kong Attitude still in control of this fight. Should be able to close out Bacon Jack off the edge. That's a little unfortunate for them.
And it could be a factor here. The Jedi might just save the Flashwolves if they can get a couple kills here. But Shailin, once again, he's the member that punishes Zonda during the Jedi itself. And now Flashwolves, they got to back off. They've lost too many members.
And they used a lot of ults for that as well. They at least got the sound barrier a little bit more charged, but it's not going to matter because CQB and Mango Jai should both get their ultimates up in a timely fashion here, given they're in control of the point, and they're going to have the EMP too. Flashwolves, on the other hand, very lean.
It's a very comfortable lead, though. 99% now to 35%. Flashwolves can afford to lose a couple fights here, can afford to really save up and bank up their ultimates. And Hong Kong Attitude, they can't. They're going to have to go for every single fight and commit every single time.
That was a really big stick onto Randy, but this is a nice timed EMP. Great catch by Zonda, though, as the conversion hasn't come through just yet. All they've got so far is K-Momo, but that's not at all enough. And, a headshot onto Randy. Not going to be able to get back in that mech, and he was starting to get close. Hong Kong Attitude just got nothing in that fight. Flashwolves were able to set up for free. Hong Kong Attitude did not make an adequate response, and they didn't close out kills with the tools they had to give them a leg up. Flashwolves should be able to get back on this point now at 99%.
These Tracers are killing themselves quite a lot here in Hong Kong Attitude. They can't afford to let this cap go. This needs to be Hong Kong Attitude stalling out for as long as possible. If the cap goes over, this might be a Flashwolves victory.
Flashwolves may have taken too long to get on the point, though. They were too busy trying to rout Hong Kong Attitude. Then Bacon Jack Jack died to his own pulse bomb, went 1 for 1. The numbers got evened up, and this is that ultimate I was talking about. Mango Jai able to pop his at the same time as Sinclair. And now, once again, Hong Kong Attitude ahead. New EMP committed. This time the conversions is there. Flash Wolves didn't grab the point when they had the chance, and it costs them now. They lose the fight. They're going to lose Lijiang Tower for it as well. That is about as expensive a mistake as you can make on the side of Flash Wolves. Hong Kong Attitude turning it back around off the back of it, 99 to 99. 1-0 up now in the series.
The teams make it exciting there as well because you weren't quite sure exactly which team was going to come out on top of Lijiang Tower. That could have realistically gone to either side, but for Hong Kong Attitude, they pulled it back most importantly in a fight where you expected them to lose. Flash Wolves never got the cap. They never really pulled it through. They never fully wiped out Hong Kong Attitude. And as soon as they reinforced Flash Wolves, they just didn't have enough members. They lost too many players. Bacon Jack killing himself once again just doesn't help.
And the silly thing is, they didn't even need to kill all the members. Hong Kong Attitude had already retreated, and you ended up in this really silly situation where Zonda was behind the point, and the rest of the team was in front of the point, and no one was actually on the point. And it was wide open. No one from Hong Kong Attitude was there. Flash Wolves had a huge numbers advantage. They tried to get the wipe so that the point secure could have felt a little safer, but they didn't need it, and going for that left them overextended. That was, like I said, an expensive mistake that costs Flash Wolves Lijiang Tower as a whole, as now Hong Kong Attitude able to pick it up in a repeat of their first match, is the word that I was looking for, in Season 2. Hong Kong Attitude, not as convincing as the first time around when they beat them on Lijiang Tower, but hopefully the consistency across the whole series can be there now, where it wasn't the first time these teams met in the first round robin.
And it's not as smooth as the first time around as well, because Hong Kong Attitude had a much more of a demanding lead, a much more commanding presence on Lijiang Tower, whereas this one, you actually expected Flash Wolves to win right at the end. We kind of mentioned this already, but Flash Wolves had this great lead against Hong Kong Attitude that was unfortunately thrown away from their side. Let's now take a look at the replay of Gardens and find out exactly what happened in this opening engagement.
And this was the one that Flash Wolves frankly dominated, right? So you can see Hong Kong Attitude are actually trying to make the aggressive move, but what they've not taken into account is you got the 2 tanks on one side, you got Bacon Jack on the other, and the supports are hanging back to lay a trap. They're trying to draw you in so they can then collapse. And Hong Kong Attitude completely took the bait. By the time Ting and Randy realized it, it was too late, and the tanks were out of the picture at the start. From here on out, it was just a route from Flash Wolves so that they could cap the point with ease.
And this is definitely the most commanding experience, rather commanding show of talent from the Flash Wolves side on the Lijiang Tower map series so far, because when you got the night market, that's when it got a little bit shaky. That's when Mui's Genji started to really shine, and Hong Kong Attitude were rolling over Flash Wolves in a number of fights where, well, the Flash Wolves just really couldn't find their footing. Control Center was really 50-50. Both teams felt like they had the edge at certain moments. Flash Wolves felt like they had more of an edge, but again, couldn't close out the game. Gardens, though, was definitely a one-sided affair. Zonda had a great time. Tac visors were beautiful. Good setup by Bacon Jack as well, with the pulse bombs hitting tanks, really softening up targets for the Zonda kind of play to follow up as well. So as a whole, Flash Wolves made really good decisions that really benefited them.
Exactly, and the positional play was super clean on Gardens as well. The thing is, actually, Night Market was pretty much the opposite. In terms of percentage-wise, there was that time that Flash Wolves were on the point, but that was just because Hong Kong Attitude were never at as big a lead as what Flash Wolves had when they were on Gardens. But even then, it was still theirs to kind of lose at that point. They were in control of it. This, however, was a different situation altogether. This is the opening skirmish now on Control Center, where once again, Flash Wolves ended up the better of it, and it was just pick after pick after pick created this unequivocal numbers advantage. At this point, the members of Hong Kong Attitude are a little bit too split, and even then, the DPSs start getting picked off the back end of the fight, because really Mui shouldn't have been looking for Randy there. He should have just been looking to retreat.
You see Zonda dying there, so he played quite aggressively in that exact moment, looking for Mui, not quite finding him, but putting himself in a dangerous position. Now for Zonda as well, this entire Control Center map wasn't his best performance. You kind of question, maybe the soldier should have come out and said maybe something else from Zonda, because Honest McCree, all the Deadeyes were punished by Shailin. He came in every single time. The third Deadeye from Zonda, he cancelled himself because at that stage, he was conditioned to fear retaliation play from any of the Hong Kong Attitude members. And he couldn't even get anything with the Deadeye done. That aside, didn't really find big flashbang kills, headshot kills, just didn't have that presence that he had when you look at Gardens, when you look at his soldier play, when you look at the attack visors.
Exactly. And the McCree was still having a good enough effect aside from that they were happy to run it, and it had good impact in the opening skirmishes and a couple of other situations. But you're right, on the whole, not quite the right kind of capitalization. So this is now a little bit further on. This is where we start to see Hong Kong Attitude get a bit more time themselves on the point. And it was just good capitalization of the EMP. They also made it quite expensive for Flash Wolves. It wasn't as expensive as it could have been, but on the whole, they really drew a good amount out of Flash Wolves. Sinclair committed this one quite late in the situation, which meant the sound barrier was able to do a lot of work for Hong Kong Attitude.
And Realman really saved the sound barrier. We talk about the fact that the EMP needed to be very important here from Mui. Realman, the fact that he counted that one out. Sinclair had the Transcendence as well. So this was the moment in the game where you expected Flash Wolves to really come out ahead. They had a really good ult rotation. Look, there's still 4 ultimates up in this exact situation, but they never really beat the Hong Kong Attitude side here. They get it to 99, but it is Hong Kong Attitude with their reinforcements that really come out ahead. Look for Zonda here, dying to Xiaolin. Once again, gets assassinated mid-Jedi and just never gets the value.
And the truth is, the numbers advantage favored Hong Kong Attitude the whole way through. They got the opening pick. They went relatively even in ultimates from that point onwards as well. So as much as the ultimate rotation was good for Flash Wolves, they were still playing from the back foot. The lack of numbers there really did cost them. The reality with Flash Wolves is they're still a huge threat when they're cycling through the ultimates well at that numerical disadvantage. But it says a lot about Hong Kong Attitude that they're able to match Flash Wolves and then come out the better because of the numerical advantage. Now this is what ended up being quite a crucial series of fights here, where Hong Kong Attitude were able to shut down Flash Wolves just often enough, make fights long enough and expensive enough, but finally Flash Wolves started to really tip the balance here.
It still feels like a Flash Wolf fight where they needed to keep the point here, so they get a large majority of the kills. Some good counter trades from the Hong Kong Attitude side as well, and this is when they start to really cap. But Xiaolin still keeps himself alive. CQB on the cap as well, and it's going to be Flash Wolves chasing kills on the back end, waiting for respawners to come in and reinforce as well, but not ever able to really get those kills. And look, they just don't have the cap pressure.
So did you see that moment right there where you had the 2 tanks moving forward? You had you had Zonda, Realman, and Sinclair on the other side of the cap. Movie was on it for a brief second, but actually, Zonda should have already been on it before Movie even touched it. Movie was a non-factor. Bacon Jack went 1 for 1 with his pulse bomb, and they didn't respect that the respawns were coming in. At this point, they didn't capitalize on any of the moments they were ahead. This was 44% for Hong Kong Attitude when it started. Flash Wolves should have known that they had spent too long fighting. They'd already been well ahead at a certain point and didn't capitalize on that moment. They wanted to get extra. They wanted to get another team wipe so that they could cap with no chance of a contest, and that ended up being exactly what cost them.
It's a really unfortunate scenario for Flash Wolves, but now time for redemption. It's going to be Eichenwald being picked by the away team, and we know Flash Wolves is a very competent and confident team on this map.
Hong Kong Attitude, on the other hand, should have foreseen this. So you would at least like to think that they will have prepared a little bit for this, but absolutely, Flash Wolves, they just look good on this map. And I feel like part of this as well for Flash Wolves, emphasizing the Eichenwald pick is because Ardiant themselves pick it, and Flash Wolves know that if they do want to overcome Ardiant eventually, they themselves have to have good performances on Eichenwald, and well, they have so far.
And this is the game mode where Flash Wolves brought it back last time. It was King's Row back then. This time it's Eichenwald, but it was Flash Wolves coming in big on the hybrid play. They brought it back 1-1. You do not want to be a team now going down 0-2, forcing yourselves into a position where it's match point in Hong Kong Attitude's favor. So Flash Wolves, this is where it needs to get very interesting and expect a big turnaround.
Of course, the other thing to consider, and I mentioned it briefly, but the first time these two teams met, it went to a full 5 games. It was also before Flash Wolves had started to kind of normalize again, when they were still figuring out some stuff with the Doomfist comps and all those sorts of things. But also Hong Kong Attitude had a really inconsistent series. I mean, in retrospect, it felt like a series they should have actually won had they just played consistently. This, however, is a Hong Kong Attitude who have become more consistent now over the rest of Season 2. So both teams are better than they were the first time they met, but with Hong Kong Attitude 1-0 up, like you said, you kind of hope that they can continue that level of performance to actually overcome Flash Wolves here and take it to match point.
For Hong Kong Attitude as well, this is going to be an important win map-wise for them. A, to get that match point advantage, but also B, because this may not necessarily be their best hybrid. We're not on a Kings Row, we're definitely not on Hollywood here. So for Hong Kong Attitude, they would have preferred a different map, and if we get to map 5 where they do get to pick the final hybrid, you may see something like Hollywood come back out again. But also as a reminder, the last time these two teams met, we went to a map 5 and Flash Wolves took it home on the 5th map, which was Hollywood.
Exactly. It was the one place it should have counted the most for Flash Wolves, and they unfortunately couldn't do it. But
Hong Kong Attitude.
Sorry, yeah, Hong Kong Attitude. But the thing as well is, like I said a moment ago, they have improved since then, and indeed both teams have, but one of the big things for Flash Wolves has been that consistency, and especially that consistency in executing when it counts. So you'd like to think, should it go to a Game 5, they won't have that repeat performance, but I mean, maybe they don't even get that far, and maybe it's because they win as a 3-0, maybe it's because Flash Wolves beat them in a 3-1.
The story yet unwritten for this matchup. Both these teams have gone fairly toe-to-toe so far. Even in that Lee Jung's Tower series, it was neck and neck. See now on Icon World exactly who comes out on top.
On the attack first is Hong Kong Attitude. Going to be running the Sombra here, so they've got that health pack control now in the room, looking to get themselves nicely set up, and it's on Hong Kong Attitude to try and get a pick in here to try and break it. They've got the right members for it as well. They've got Bacon Jack onto that Doomfist, and there's the pressure as they thread the needle to catch Mango Jai. Don't quite connect the flashbang. Hong Kong Attitude not losing any more members and actually demeching K-Momo gives them a good window as Mango Jai regroups.
We are looking for Flash Wolves and specifically Zonda here to get a lot of value out of this McCree. We've seen them punished already on Control Center. That happened just recently. It was Shylin. They stopped them from using the Deadeyes, but this time around, with Flash Wolves in a more defensible position, you might even say defender's advantage when the fact that Hong Kong Attitude needs to consistently push into Flash Wolves, you expect a lot more out of Zonda.
That's a really early aggression, and indeed the pick now onto a Ting, and K-Momo getting back in the mech means that one saving grace for Hong Kong Attitude is no longer a factor. Shailin's got to get a big pulse bomb or something here, but actually they're just going to opt to back out of the fight, and I think smartly so. They're waiting for the EMP.
And that's an important ultimate to use from the Hong Kong Attitude side, and also an important ultimate to counter up from the Flash Wolf side. And most importantly, both supports on the Flash Wolf side are nearing their own ultimates. If one of them manages to land either a sound barrier or a transcendence following an EMP play, they will be destabilized. Bacon Jack going down there. This is go time.
That was absolutely phenomenal, and good sound barrier as well to flag the aggression. That is a good Deadeye in terms of placement, but ready to block it. Ooh, good catch onto Shylin. Happy to take that, but the pressure's still in from Hong Kong Attitude with the EMP out. They need to convert onto Zonda here, and there it goes. A Ting following that one up. They do lose Mango Jai in the mix, but they've still got enough damage here. Bacon Jack gets to rejoin the fight now, though, and he's got a Meteor Strike to go with it if he wants to use it. May just want to hold on to it, but he actually going to go ahead and commit it. But K-Momo going to lose the mech. I believe he's going to use the self-destruct. Actually was not able to there, so now Bacon Jack pressured. Was relying on that one coming out. Gets a kill on the backside. They may want to try and go back in off the back of this, but Hong Kong Attitude now have the ground on the point, and they got a closer respawn too. This is risky for Flash Wolves. Still just only going 1 for 1, but the progress is there right now for Hong Kong Attitude. It's only just getting contested, and a great knockoff by a Ting keeps Bacon Jack out of the picture. Still getting the kills through. Hong Kong Attitude, even though they lose Mui, even though they lose Randy, are going to cap out point A in a moment here.
Well, eventually, but there's a good stall out, at least from K-Momo. The self-destruct here, this is not a bad contest. It's just forcing out more and more time. Hong Kong Attitude are just losing this cap. They finally get it, but they get it maybe 30 seconds too slow off the back of a nice stall from Flash Wolves.
The one thing they will be pleased about, though, is the number of ultimates they got out of Flash Wolves in the end as well. They're about to be coming up on a Deadeye and a Transcendence, so they're not in terrible shape, but Hong Kong Attitude are pretty well set to match that, specifically given that they'll get the sound barrier, whereas Flash Wolves will not.
So once again, EMP becomes the most important weapon here for Hong Kong Attitude. If they can get a good contest with the EMP, this is their entry.
That was nicely placed, but they don't quite get the follow-up on K-Momo as well. Happy to get Bacon Jack enough, though, and Zonda uses the Deadeye to no effect and dies. Mui just barely staying alive for that extra moment, and it's actually drawn out K-Momo. They instantly convert onto the tanks. Shylin keeping the pressure on the backliners means big progress now for the cart. No real big fight for Flash Wolves there. That was pretty much uncontested.
This is another stage of the game where for Flash Wolves, they still need to find a couple of additional answers, and Zonda might just find that one in the Soldier. We already mentioned, didn't see enough pressure out of the McCree on Control Center, not seeing enough pressure out of him now on Eichenwald either, so it's back on the tried and true. Flash Wolves, this is what they've been winning with, this is what they need to win with now.
Hong Kong Attitude did cycle their ultimates nicely, but now Flash Wolves do get both the defensive ultimates. Ooh, Jongi having to Primal Rage to save himself there, and a Ting and Mui. Oh, Mui, no, he's over the edge. Nice bump from K-Momo, and that puts Hong Kong Attitude behind this fight, but a Ting, there's something else to say about that. They get the closeout on Jongi as well, but Zonda on that Soldier this time in the fight, and of course, without Mui, they don't have that extra DPS, so Randy is going to commit the self-destruct to try and catch these members who are out in the open. It does force a Transcendence, but it's a Transcendence that keeps Flash Wolves in control of the defense here.
Well, they need some more members because it's just 2 supports, so here come the tanks now finally. You would expect Flash Wolves to get a stabilization, despite the fact that Zonda comes out. He will be respawning fairly soon for Hong Kong Attitude. They lose the positioning, they lose the initiation.
Unfortunately so, and they're still waiting on this EMP as they lose a Ting as well. They do get a couple of trades and actually catching Jongi with this EMP about to be available. They want to go for it. They commit, but Shailin's low. They get a closeout on Zonda though, that's key. And if they can get Bacon Jack as well before the Pulse Bomb can turn anything around, that would be huge. Trying to keep him hacked, but Bacon Jack, he's keeping his team in this fight. Murray finally able to get the close out, and Flash Wolves may just want to give this one up, simply getting picked. They shouldn't really contest this. They're going to be staggering in, and that gives Hong Kong Attitude more ult charge and the cap.
Well, they do stagger out more time though, so this is still important for Flash Wolves. If nothing else is achieved, they're shaving more seconds off the clock, and every second does eventually count as we're heading into C. This is where it gets the most difficult for Hong Kong Attitude to push in through. With only 2 minutes and 26 remaining for Flash Wolves, this is very defendable.
And they've got the ultimates to do it as well. They need to get a good rotation here. Nice force on the Transcendence by sticking the Pulse Bomb, but of course Mango Chai can at least preserve his life here. Shaolin also not getting much with his own Pulse Bomb, unfortunately. K-Momo using the self-destruct here, and they get aggressive with the Tactical Visor, but they haven't got anything for either of those ultimates, only losing Shaolin, and Zonda is pressured back. He's alive though, and that's what's going to matter, as now these members of Hong Kong Attitude are very deep, but they're converting, they're getting pressure, they're getting kills. A Ting is low, but he's able to retreat for just a moment. Zonda though still alive as a Ting gets dropped, and Hong Kong Attitude good progress, but this is now the full counterattack from Flash Wolves, and the retreat from Hong Kong Attitude.
Zonda staying alive there was so critical to that defense succeeding, and for Hong Kong Attitude, still on the back foot here, look for Flash Wolves, still aggressing, still looking for additional kills, getting one on Demuri that slows down Hong Kong Attitude by so much. 1 minute 30 now remaining. We've already talked about the fact that Hong Kong Attitude don't have enough time on C. They get even less time now. The EMP has to come out big.
That was a decent pick on Zonda. It at least stopped any further route, but he does get to respawn. They've got a window where they can still capitalize. That window is now pretty much past. They've got to get a big EMP play.
That's about the only thing that can save them here, so it does pick a few members, but doesn't catch enough.
And he dies instantly to the Helix Rocket, and Mango Chai goes down just shy of the Transcendence. CQB can't keep himself alive either, and they just don't have the ultimates. Late commits some out of Flash Wolves, but they do them to secure the fight.
That was basically an all-in from Hong Kong Attitude. Note they don't have too much to play with now. It's 2 support ultimates. If CQB has the time to charge it up, it's going to be Zonda now, changing onto Doomfist. Now the Tactical Visor's gone, he's switching to something else, maybe a little bit more effective in the closed space rather, of the C cap of Eichenwald Sinclair. Look for the quick Transcendence out of him. That might just be what Flash Wolves need to save themselves.
Randy committed a really late self-destruct that didn't really buy the team anything, unfortunately. It's just one less resource in the mix now, and they need to get a big CMG. And yeah, that is good force out of Bacon Jack. That is potentially a game changer here, because no one can force Sinclair's ultimate. Zonda picks a Ting, and now Hong Kong Attitude have no ultimates but the sound barrier, which they do have to commit, but they're all in a tight spot here. Great placement on the self-destruct from K-Momo, but Hong Kong Attitude, having weathered the storm, can try and bite back. They've got a lot to fight through with very few resources to use. They need to just get upfront kills. Randy does get Zonda, and that is more than nothing, but they have lost Mango Chai. They need to convert a lot more, and they're struggling to get pressure on, but there's Jongi in very deep. The Force Transcendence has come up from Singler to keep his team tidy through this one, and Randy gets demaxed, but there's the EMP, and this is the opportunity to start closing it out as Randy does go down, but the pressure is still in from Hong Kong Attitude, but they just can't close the kills. All they get is K-Momo's mech, and now the the sound barrier rather is there to keep the team alive through what looks to be the closing moments of the fight. Hong Kong Attitude just couldn't quite get themselves ahead, even though they did keep it alive for a while.
That was so well set up by the Flash Wolves. When you look at the micro decisions there, when you look at A and the fact that they held that one out for so long, an extra 30 seconds, even more potentially, that they bought from continually stalling up that cap. K-Momo committing self-destructs, multiple members diving on that cap, even onto B as the car reached the final moments of the gate. Members throwing themselves at the car, continually stalling it up. All those seconds they shave off add up at the end of the day. Had Hong Kong Attitude pushed through and those moments weren't shaved off, this would have been an extra fight in Hong Kong Attitude, maybe even potentially 2 extra fights, but they don't get it, and Flash Wolves set themselves up for an easy C hold.
Yeah, you're completely right there, and that's the thing, like you said, the seconds, they add up. You said it during the game, and well, no shocker, you were right. But that is still good progress, all told, out of Hong Kong Attitude. If they themselves could find a good hold anywhere else on the map, potentially even on point A, or even if they can just shave more seconds off the clock than what Flash Wolves did to them, then this is very achievable for Hong Kong Attitude as well.
Hong Kong Attitude need to be looking for an A or B hold here. We know they can achieve that. A B hold is probably more likely. We've seen them do that to other teams on various other hybrid maps. Going into C, that's when you got to really feel for Hong Kong Attitude. If Flash Wolves manage to break into C with a decent amount of time, with even 2 minutes and 30 seconds, which is what Hong Kong Attitude had to work with, that's far more achievable for Flash Wolves because they have a certain goal in mind, they have a certain target in mind, and they can play to their objective.
Man, these Lucio players are just better than me. I can't do that.
I would expect them to be better. As a professional player, if they're not better,
that would be worrying.
I'd be disappointed.
Like, I can do the one on Lijiang Tower on Gardens where you're just kind of rotating around the top, but that's it. I can't do that.
I can do some things, but not that.
Yeah, I can do some things, but I can't do that one thing. Bacon Jack out the gate is going to be on the Doomfist for the attack. Movie as well, sticking on the Sombra for the defense. Let's see how this goes for Flash Wolves.
So it's going to be the same composition that Flash Wolves use defensively, and we'll see if they can do it offensively. And for Hong Kong Attitude, also sticking to their guns. This is what worked for them originally. They're going to have to make it work one more time.
Need to get good pressure out here, and need to also avoid getting headshotted at any juncture by Zonda.
Well, it's more up to Zonda to land the headshots because, again, you have to think that so far his McCree hasn't had the impact. When you see Mui on McCree, he usually does, but Zonda, sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. Right now, he's not.
Randy a little bit exposed on the point as the pressure instantly came in from Flash Wolves, picking a good moment to move on to the point, and actually kind of took Hong Kong Attitude by surprise, as now the aggression is just unfounded from Flash Wolves. Hong Kong Attitude really just getting beaten off this point without too much contest.
By a huge fist as well. It's Bacon Jack getting the majority of the kills here, just finding good angles to land those rocket punches. Sinclair cleaning up and thing on the backside as well. This is going to be very important as Hong Kong Attitude still waiting for respawn as Mui nowhere near that EMP. You're looking for it to charge up a little quicker. Dives in, dives back out just as quickly, and now Flash Wolves pushing on through. We talk about the fact that Hong Kong Attitude need to shave time off. That wasn't nearly enough.
Nowhere near enough, exactly, and now they're going to have to get a lot more on the street space. They don't really have the ultimates for it either, a little too far away from that EMP, and they've got the ultimates coming up here, Flash Wolves, to get very aggressive,
losing a mech on the K-Momo, though, that might be something that slows down Flash Wolves and gives Hong Kong Attitude a bit of breathing space, something they haven't had yet so far on this defense.
Yeah, it seems to be just enough because they do get the EMP up. Flash Wolves have the ultimates they need. Quick commit on the EMP, but they haven't got the kills just yet, and that could actually cost them if they don't convert. They only get K-Momo, but they lose Randy's mech. They didn't kill Bacon Jack, they didn't kill Sinclair, and now those members can go off. The tenants can come out. Mui, the translocator, got red, and now he's on the wrong side of this fight. That was possibly too early from Hong Kong Attitude. It was too easy for Flash Wolves to retreat back through that choke.
And that was a big bait from the Flash Wolves. They knew the EMP had to come out eventually. They knew that Mui was charging that one up, and they thought, it hasn't come out just yet. When does it come out? We're going to be ready for that. As soon as it was committed, Mui translocates out very quickly. Notice neither Realment nor Sinclair died there, and they both had support ultimates. In fact, they both retained their support ultimates. That's so big.
Ting having to Primal Rage just so he doesn't go down. And the Transcendence from Mango Jai. They haven't even broken out onto this forecourt just yet. It's only Shaolin who's been keeping these members stored up. Now the self-destruct from K-Momo, creating more space again, and it catches Shaolin for good measure. Randy kind of has to answer with a self-destruct, but he doesn't really get much done with it. He just buys a few seconds for his team to try and regroup. They are able to get a few members back into this one now, and the Transcendence from Sinclair can keep Flash Wolves safe in the fight, so Hong Kong Attitude still not stabilized now, losing Randy, nearly going down there, Jongi, but they're able to connect.
This EMP does not do enough.
Yeah, it's just a little late. Actually, they do get some kills, so it may have just been enough. It looks like it was a bit late. It was very risky indeed, but well, it worked, so I guess you've got to say it was good enough.
Well, in the case of Hong Kong Attitude, for their sake, Mui made me eat my words. I'm happy to say that that's exactly what happened. So Mui and the rest of the team, they got the EMP down. The rest of the members did come in. At least from Mui's perspective, it didn't really look like the rest of the team was there. So it looked like a bit of a desperation play. But look, Hong Kong Attitude, they knew better. And for Flash Wolves, this is now a reset. And the first time so far in Icon World, the Hong Kong Attitude do get rewarded with stabilization. But now what do they do with this?
I mean, Mango Jai was the one who converted the kills, right? Like, that's unlikely. That's why we said it didn't look very good, because Shaolin was dead and Mui wasn't able to get the conversion, but that's a good flashback.
No headshot, though.
Yeah, no headshot, so Shaolin is able to retreat. The Deadeye is here, though, and he's going to use it to zone. Needs to get some targets, needs to also not be too exposed, doesn't find anything. But Randy and Mui both are low, and Flash Wolves are pretty safe right now. No conversion on any kills out of Hong Kong Attitude, and the aggression is still here from Flash Wolves, still in control of this fight. The only casualty so far was K-Momo's extremely expensive Korean mech, and now actually Bacon Jacked as well, but this is still Flash Wolves in control, should be able to get the point cap in a moment.
And all in all, this has been a pretty important fight for Hong Kong Attitude so far. They're still actually stalling this one out, so buying a decent amount of time, but eventually Flash Wolves, they cap it on through with just about maybe 40 to 50 seconds extra to what Hong Kong Attitude had to work with. It was already previously mentioned, but even if Flash Wolves only had 2 minutes 30, which is what Hong Kong Attitude had to work with originally on the C, this is still a very Flash Wolves favored attack now, because again, they have an objective in mind, they have the circumstance they need to play with, and they understand what that is.
The EMP is starting to get a little bit red now out of Flash Wolves. Mui committing it, but he can't follow up himself. He's a long way away from the fight because the translocator, and the conversion hasn't quite been there. They get Jongi now, but K-Momo able to answer back with a self-destruct. Doesn't actually get anything, but does create space. However, Hong Kong Attitude were able to just get enough. Flash Wolves, though, preserving plenty of ultimates.
This is when you got to expect the Doom push to come out of Flash Wolves eventually. Both the supporters have done a great job of rotating ultimates effectively to the point where they both managed to retain ultimates together in a lot of situations where for Flash Wolves, they win without having to commit either. Now for Hong Kong Attitude, they still have Mango Jai's Transcendence at least, but all it takes is for Bacon Jack to pressure him out, and then suddenly the Transcendence has to be used, and Flash Wolves come out ahead again.
On the flip side of that, though, all it takes is a good pulse bomb from Shaolin. This is aggressive now from Flash Wolves. They want to go off this sound barrier, but the self-destruct makes it hard to do that. So now fight largely reset. Good catch on K-Momo's mech, actually. The Deadeye is out, but it's not got anything just yet. Defense Matrix was up for that. Mango Jai, they're getting picked, and now Randy D-Mech. The pressure is still on from Flash Wolves. That's a stick, or not quite a stick, but it's damage is what it is. Now Mui needs to hold on to this ultimate. They need to wait for the respawners. This is now their last chance.
They may not have too much time to wait for respawners either. Eventually, Mui does have to commit this because he's been caught out. Shaolin loses his own life and finally the EMP.
But there's no Shaolin to follow up on it, and the team can't get out of this base. There's the sound barrier to try and buy Mui time to get kills, but they've not actually got the kills. The Transcendence from Sinclair keeps them safe. Ultimate from a Ting. They force Zonda out of the fight, but this is too much time spent on Zonda. What about Jongi? What about the rest of the team that has killed the Ting and Shaolin? D-Mech Randy getting the kills now. Self-destruct for CQP, and that's the payload on the cusp of being capped. Those respawns for Hong Kong Attitude are just not enough. Cap goes through for Flash Wolves to even it up.
And unfortunately, too much time spent on Zonda, and they do not even pick up that kill. That's the real heartbreaking thing to really consider here, and that's what Hong Kong Attitude have to take through with them as we now have to already start thinking about map 3, because 1 and 1 apiece, well played by Flash Wolves. This is where we expected them to fire back, and fire back they certainly did.
Hong Kong Attitude, I've got to be honest, just didn't look positionally clean in a lot of instances there. They didn't quite look prepared. They didn't quite look set up. Look, this is how Flash Wolves have been playing, right? They've been getting aggressive. They've been trying to cut off other teams as they're setting up. They're trying to shut them down before the other team is ready, which means you have to be ready even earlier. You have to know that they're going to go for that. You have to be prepared, and I feel like Hong Kong Attitude just didn't do enough homework, especially for Eichenwald. So look, they got good distance. Maybe it was close-ish, but it was definitely Flash Wolves in the driver's seat for that whole map. And with that, they even up the series 1-1.
Once more, this is when Flash Wolves needed to take that victory, because otherwise they would have been staring down the barrel of a 2-0 match lead into a potential, or in fact, a definite match point scenario for Hong Kong Attitude, which would have been very scary for the Flash Wolves side to deal with. Now, previously, when we've seen these two teams meet against each other, it was in that Hong Kong Attitude strikes back in the next map. But before we get there, let's take a look at the replay.
And this is what we talk about with Flash Wolves making it so hard for Hong Kong Attitude. Mui, by the way, translocated back up right into where K-Momo was still actually stood, so he got bumped back off the edge. Hong Kong Attitude was still able to turn this one back around. It was quite expensive for Flash Wolves, but because they were actually trading these kills the whole way along, like you kept saying, they bled a lot of time off the clock, and when around about here, Hong Kong Attitude started kind of the beginnings of swinging back and getting the payload underway, really, Flash Wolves were close enough to their ultimates that they were happy to take the fight loss from there, knowing that they would probably be able to hold at some point on C, which eventually they did.
And a decent string of kills, including environmental kills, were quite important there for Hong Kong Attitude. So yes, it was this fact that Mui got bumped off by Karimobo, who then got bumped off himself by, I believe it was a Ting. So, and Zonda himself took a dive off the side from CQB. So everyone's sort of just abusing these environmental plays. And still, you look at an example, Karimobo losing his life to CQB again. But eventually, it is the Hong Kong Attitude respawners as we wait for Zonda to come back, as we wait for everyone else to come back. Flash Wolves just never have a stabilization period where all 6 of them are alive together.
Yeah, and that was how Hong Kong Attitude ended up being able to push it over. But you also noticed towards the end there how much ultimate charge Flash Wolves have. So that is what I mentioned a moment ago. They at least got it to the point where they could afford to take the out-and-out fight loss without actually stabilizing, because they'd bled enough time off the clock and they got the ultimates up that it was safe for Hong Kong Attitude to go through to point C, with Flash Wolves being able to get a hold.
Yeah, so otherwise, fairly well played on both sides. You had a situation where Hong Kong Attitude were behind and they sort of scraped themselves back ahead. We already saw that in Control Center when you expect Flash Wolves to really take the lead and really take a win on fight. Unfortunately, they don't, and Hong Kong Attitude get the better of them. At the same time, though, the macro play from Flash Wolves was really important. As previously mentioned, they knew what the game plan was. If we are going to lose, we're going to force as much time as possible and set up where we need to set up. Let's take a look at the next replay now. Still onto the bridge, but this time it is Flash Wolves attacking instead.
And look at how different this goes, right? A Ting goes way too far forward. Mango Jai is forced to Transcendence. They're just completely separated out here, and they're not getting anything done with it. They start to pull back, and they get a couple of kills, but because they're separated, these ultimates like Self-Destruct are able to get a lot of work done. And then Flash Wolves, who had just kind of bided their time up till then, were able to commit their own ultimates to take advantage of the positioning. Now you see the same thing. Randy is too far forward himself. They were trying to do the same thing as Flash Wolves, where they were just stalling out the cart while building up ult charge. But the problem was, they were committing their own ultimates into it. They got a bit of a stabilization off the back of this, but you've actually got to call it lucky. It's skillful for Mango Jai to get those 2 kills, don't get me wrong, but Mui committed it where Shylin wasn't in the fight and a Ting wasn't in the fight, and he wasn't actually able to get the kills himself. Had those 2 kills not come through from Mango Jai, that would have been a huge waste for Hong Kong Attitude, and even with it getting some kills, it only bought them about 20 seconds.
Well, it was a good 20 seconds though, because well, it's actually more than 20 seconds. They had a long streak,
30.
A longer streak of stabilization there, because what it really did was force a reset. This isn't something that Flash Wolves really wanted on their attack. They wanted this continued long offense where they don't have to go back to their own base and regroup with the rest of their numbers. This time, though, they were forced to do that, and it gives breathing space to the Hong Kong Attitude side. It really lets them reset up on their defense, which is important for a defending team.
It is, yeah, absolutely. The unfortunate thing then was the follow-on was actually with that breathing space, Hong Kong Attitude didn't get anything further, because Flash Wolves immediately on the next attack were able to push it through, despite actually having a slight ultimate deficit. And again, it looked like a slight bit of unpreparedness out of Hong Kong Attitude. You know, like you said, they had the breathing space, but to not capitalize on it, I mean, how can that go wrong for you?
Well, that was the question asked, right? What can they do now? And certainly what can they do now as it's 1-1 apiece. Both teams taking a little bit of the piece of the pie, but there's only limited slices left. Who's going to come out on top? That all happens right after this break. Thank you for sticking through that break with us as we're about to head into map 3 of the series. Now, the second match of the evening, Hong Kong Attitude and Flash Wolves currently 1-1 apiece.
And it's kind of a close one so far, in a sense, but I think you have to have a bit of a reality check in among here as well, in that Flash Wolves were in the driver's seat for the entirety of Eichenwald, and honestly, lost it for themselves on Lijiang Tower. They kind of gave Hong Kong Attitude an opportunity, which Hong Kong Attitude capitalized on, don't get me wrong. They did deserve that win in the end because of that mistake, but you do feel like Flash Wolves could have had it at match point by now. But one of these two teams is definitely going to have it at match point after this next map, which is going to be Horizon Lunar Colony, Hong Kong Attitude's pick. And
last time it was Hong Kong Attitude that then won the Assault map, so it was kind of a 1-1 apiece. Everyone won the corresponding map, sort of in a row. No team won 2 maps in a row right until the end, where Hong Kong Attitude lost the final map, which was Hollywood. So if history does repeat itself, it would say that Hong Kong actually come out ahead on the Assault. But then we go to the Escort, and you got to think, for a team like Flash Wolves, they got to be favored there. So it gets dangerous when you consider that if Flash Wolves actually win Assault, then you go into Escort, maybe it's a Flash Wolves 3-1.
Well, and the other funny thing as well is actually last time these two teams met, they traded wins, but they were winning on the opposite team's map pick. This time it's the other way around, at least so far. So the interesting thing is that means, it means actually Hong Kong Attitude lost the Escort and then lost the hybrid that they had previously won. Hold on, I have that the wrong way around. No, I have that, I have it the right way round. What I actually had wrong is they hadn't won the hybrid before that. So never mind that conjectural incorrect evidence. The thing that does have to be considered though, I feel just off the cuff, is if you look specifically at that last series, those last two maps, the Escort and Hybrid, were the most inconsistent from Hong Kong Attitude specifically, and were within striking distance for them. So again, you look at this now more consistent Hong Kong Attitude, you would like to think they're not going to end up in that same situation, but first, they do need to close out Assault again.
This also needs to be a closer matchup for Flash Wolves as well, because we do know them to be a fairly decent Assault team. In fact, in Season 1, they had the best Assault record of any team. And that was also, I guess, off the back of the fact that they were just beating every team anyway, but specifically on Assault, they were fantastic. So now, coming into Season 2, they've had a decent run in Assault, but last time they lost this to Hong Kong Attitude, they need to bring it back around again. They could have won Lijiang Tower, as you previously mentioned. They also could have possibly have won Assault. Now they need to do it.
I wonder if this actually will be a Pharaoh out of Zonda. It looks like they actually might do, because they've got the Mercy on there as well. They're going for something very interesting here, and there is a distinct lack of hit scan on the side of Hong Kong Attitude.
Yeah, not the kind of hit scan you want anyway. Shailin's hit scan doesn't count for anything against Flash Wolves. You don't have a lot of anti-air, so well read by Flash Wolves. They understood, or rather they predicted what kind of defense Hong Kong Attitude were going to go for. There's going to be a lot of spam damage coming down range.
Yeah, and that's the thing, the kind of positional threat, I suppose, out of Bacon Jack on the Junkrat is really going to hurt Hong Kong Attitude, who have a much more static kind of defense here. They've got a bit of mobility, but it's not a whole ton. The saving grace could be Randy, but instantly losing CQB. They're kind of struggling to dislodge Zonda here, and all these members are just taking damage and not dishing enough back. Now already with a Rocket Barrage available, doesn't even need to use it, does for good measure, and is going to secure the point off the back of it. Zonda showing up on Fan.
And a full team white, never mind dislodging Zonda. You can't even dislodge Bacon Jack. As soon as the point was actually pushed on through and Flash Wolves were sitting on the cap itself, Bacon Jack was well protected. He was hiding in a corner. There was no way you were going to aggress his own damage. Moo responds very quickly onto Zonda, but instantly the res.
Yeah, instantly the res, but they're not actually set up on the point yet. Now they kind of lose a bit of a snowball potential. Plus Hong Kong Attitude have the exact tools to deal with this pharmacy. Riptide is going to go in, get shut down again by Louis, and now Flash Wolves are kind of out of tools. Good DMAC on Randy, but they're just kind of going to get traded here if they're not careful. They need to get a lot more than just that one kill, but their tanks are a little bit low, and they're getting kind of pressured out around the sides here.
This 1-on-1 by Bacon Jack is ill-advised, and he should go down because there's no way a Junkrat usually beats a Tracer, so you need to be prioritizing your damage output onto the tanks, onto the other members, spawn camping, potentially really taking advantage of area, not going for those trades because you're not a Tracer, Bacon Jack, but he is going to change up, and finally he will become the Tracer he always wanted to be.
And instantly Mui actually reads it as well, swapping onto the McCree, assuming that there would be either a Doomfist or a Soldier. Actually now going back onto the Genji as they spot out the Soldier, so good reads by Hong Kong Attitude. After getting pretty hard counted for point A, they've really tidied up their act for point B.
I think that was a really difficult push for Flash Wolves anyway, very difficult to make that composition work on a B attack. So the fact is they were only relying purely on a snowball, which didn't happen. Now, Flash Wolves, they do have a decent amount of time to work with here, but they can't squander it because 2 members, 3 in fact, had to swap off. That's 3 ultimates completely reset.
And they don't really have the ideal ultimates for a cap fight anyway. They've got the ones coming up for the tanks, and they will get sound barrier, but they don't have anything like the tactical visor. Hong Kong Attitude, on the other hand, have ultimates they can use aggressively. Even the nano boost onto a team could do so. Flash Wolves are going in for the fight. No one getting any picks just yet, but they do pressure out Mui. That forces Flash Wolves to get aggressive if they want to start converting, but they lose Zonda in that, as K-Momo has already committed the self-destruction, no effect. Now, Hong Kong Attitude already with the kills and plus the respawn advantage that they don't even need to use, as it turns out, are going to be able to weather the storm.
I think 1 kill required as well. Good sleep dart by Mango Giant to Bacon Jack, and the follow-up to Genji Dash from Mui as well is all you need to secure that kill. 1 minute extra already down for Flash Wolves. They've already just spent that last minute, not achieving too much. I guess what they have achieved is at least getting those ultimates up available, but for Hong Kong Attitude, they didn't really spend anything.
Yeah, they've got their own ultimates available anyway. The only thing that went out was the nano boost. So they can honestly just cycle these ultimates and look for individual picks to screw up Flash Wolves' positioning before they can get set up themselves.
Almost onto the big 6 now for Hong Kong Attitude, and Flash Wolves are actually not that far off either, so both teams going to commit really hard here. Sound barrier's out first.
Yeah, double sound barrier, but Randy can commit the self-destruct to again muck up Flash Wolves' positioning as K-Momo D-Mech'd. That's a good way to go, as Zonda just not getting anything much with this tactical visor. Now getting pressured back by a Ting, and they just can't get a leg up in the fight. Shylin closing out on Jongi. He doesn't commit the Primal Rage. Smartly so, because they've already lost the fight, but they'd committed other ultimates as well. They weren't all in, they weren't all out. They were in, and then they were out, and then they shook it all about. Hong Kong Attitude going to turn it back around.
Now Flash Wolves still waiting for members. Now, there was a pretty decent stagger kill onto Realman that slows things down considerably. And for Flash Wolves, again, they committed more into that last fight than Hong Kong Attitude did. So for the defensive team now, sitting fairly tightly together in a good position, macro-wise, clean as well, ult economy, looking fresh.
And that's the thing, I mean, hokey-pokey means aside, Flash Wolves committed some ultimates, and actually some crucial ones like the tactical visor, but not all of them. Now Hong Kong Attitude still ahead in the ult economy. Gonna commit 2 here. So nano boost onto Randy of all people, and they lose a Ting who had ulted as well. They do get the Primal Rage out of Jongi, but actually Flash Wolves have an opportunity here.
Now wait for CQB to get the sound barrier back again, because even if Hong Kong Attitude start to lose members, this is their big defensive tool. Out it comes, good timing as well.
Yeah, the sound barrier was good. Without the defense matrix, so they can't completely neuter the tactical visor, so it still gets upfront damage, which they're now able to convert with their own sound barrier running. Bacon Jack catching Mui in the back line of this. Now he can cut off the respawns. Mango Jai misses the sleep as well, and Bacon Jack just getting work done for free. They kind of lost tabs on him. Randy good self-destruct. Should buy a couple of respawners some time to get into the fight, but they need to actually do something with that time, because Flash Wolves, they've nearly got it capped out. Hong Kong Attitude very much behind the 8 ball now, and Mui's got no tanks to defend him as he goes for the Dragon Blade. And he can't get any kills. A Sinclair headshot plus Transcendence for style points as a full cap out for Flash Wolves.
And Bacon Check reminding everyone exactly why he's still the best. He put Flash Wolves in his pockets there in every one of the Hong Kong Attitude side. It started with Mui and on Shylin as well. Both the DPS is going down. Styles himself against Mango Giant. Times his blink so that he dodges the sleep dart perfectly. And Hong Kong Attitude could do nothing there but watch as the point gets capped away. Mui finally comes out with the Dragon Blade. But yeah, Sinclair, look, the headshots ring on true. And all the meanwhile, he had a Transcendence saved in the back pocket that he could have chosen to use at any time. And for Flash Wolves, that was clean.
I mean, for Hong Kong Attitude as well, that was with an ultimate lead. Flash Wolves had really miscommitted some ultimates in the fight just before that. But Hong Kong Attitude, they kind of got a little ahead of themselves with the ultimates they committed and where they committed them. I mean, not to question the decision-making, but nano boost onto Diva as opposed to...
I think that might have been a mistake.
I think it must have been, because they also committed the Primal Rage, and that's the thing. It meant that they couldn't capitalize on those ultimates. They could have actually waited for a moment, could have waited for Flash Wolves to come to them a little bit more, and baited them into a fight where suddenly a nano-boosted Winston could have cut off the backliners, rather than throwing a Ting right into the middle of Hong Kong Attitude, and as it turned out, didn't even have the nano-boost on him.
Because evidence would say, and history would back up as well, that Hong Kong Attitude were getting ahead in all those defensive fights. They didn't spend that many ultimates. Flash Wolves were really overcommitting at multiple junctures, and Hong Kong Attitude were just edging out the defense against those attackers every single time, except that one time when it really counted. Bacon Jack made it work for the team, and suddenly Hong Kong Attitude, they don't know what hit him.
Point A was a little bit of a different story as well, and it's unfortunate for Hong Kong Attitude that there was so much time on Point B they would have had to have defended for. They still got about 5 minutes off the clock in that situation though, which is good news for them. Now they're able to kind of play their own greatest hits, as it were, looking to get a similarly aggressive time for the Point A cap.
We will want to see how Flash Wolves exactly handle Mui's Widowmaker, because many teams have already fallen over to this. So will we see Bacon Jack get quite aggressive on him, or we're going to see something else? So far though, Flash Wolves, good early pressure onto Hong Kong Attitude, no response so far.
Yeah, it's a great collapse in, because actually Mui wasn't set up enough to actually get any picks to counter it out. Flash Wolves are actually safe to play in that sightline for that crucial moment. And that actually means Hong Kong Attitude weren't quite clean enough on the timing there. They needed to go when Mui was set up. They went just a fraction of a second too early.
I'm not too set up as part of the issue here. The other part of the issue is Hong Kong Attitude should have pushed on the right side. Mui doesn't have any sightlines on the left for Hydroponic. He does have sightlines on the right side though, so the Widowmaker pick just didn't work out for what the team plan was. Now it's going to be a bit of a change up for the composition of Hong Kong Attitude, already picking out Zhongyi rather early.
That's a great open, and they force Bacon Jack out of the fight as well. He's going to be able to get healed up, but Hong Kong Attitude have the opportunity to go. They need to capitalize on it though, because Zhongyi will rejoin the fight in a moment.
We have to see now, Hong Kong Attitude still waiting for their moment to strike. You got to make this offense very aggressive. If you want to play Tracer Genji, you need to be dictating the fights, you need to be initiating. So far though, having control of the cap itself, eventually Flash Wolf's got to come on.
Yeah, well there's the nano boost onto Zhongyi, who goes in for the back line, but they're able to get some work done. Mui going down though, and they're losing all these members to the dive from Flash Wolves. It took a moment for them to actually follow up on Zhongyi, but once the follow-up went in, it was absolutely commanding. And they actually preserve a lot of ultimates in that as well.
The only member that went down was Sinclair going down to Shailin, and Shailin not even yet getting his pulse bomb, still waiting for Mui to charge up a Dragon Blade. By this time, Flash Wolves were already onto B, easily already onto B, mind you. And so for Hong Kong Attitude, still really struggling, and half of their attacking time for A already gone.
Unfortunately so, and they need to not lose Mui early in these fights. They need to be able to cover him as he uses the Dragon Blade. They've got the defensive ultimates to do it this time though.
Okay, we're going to look for a good pick out here from Shailin, potentially a good pulse bomb kill, really open things up against the Flash Wolves, because we need the space for Mui to work his Dragon Blade as well.
Mango using the Transcendence, looking to get the team onto the point. The ultimates now coming out of Flash Wolves. Transcendence has ended, and they're still not actually getting onto the point, unfortunately. These are the ultimates they wanted to use so that Mui could go off. They have to just do the fight the old-fashioned way now. They lose a Ting in the mix, just shy of the Primal Rage. Now Mui trying to get work done with nothing to keep him alive during the Dragon Blade, and there's all these tools from Flash Wolves to keep Hong Kong Attitude at bay. They haven't got onto the point yet. They haven't even got the kills to make it count either. Shailin finally getting Zhongyi, and they pressure up Bacon Jack. Now they can start going, but this has taken a really long time for them. They will get the cap by the looks of it, but that is a lot of time lost, especially when you compare it to Flash Wolves, who did it in less than a minute.
And Hong Kong Attitude do it all backwards and reverse as well. When you use the ultimates, they're not getting the kills. It looks like Flash Wolves are coming out ahead, but when Hong Kong Attitude don't have the ultimates, suddenly they get the kills, and Flash Wolves potentially overstepping there. Hong Kong Attitude punishes accordingly, but the bigger issue and what you need to be concerned about is where were all the kills when the ults were actually committed.
Now Hong Kong Attitude don't quite have the ideal ultimates to snowball, but they can just get a pick and make it count anyway. So look to see what they're able to do, because Realman pressured out, get catched by Mui. Bacon Jack as well pressured. Zonda going aggressive. Meteor Strike is semi-defensive, was not quite willing to commit for the pick there, and is now on the back side of the Spiders. Mango going aggressive with the Transcendence, but getting Pinson on the back end as the Bacon Jack is ready for the collapse. Mui's trying to make it work for his team though. Good pulse bomb and a ting, but it doesn't quite close it out. Now you have to start questioning whether Bacon Jack should join the rest of the fight, because this is 2/3 almost for Hong Kong Attitude. D-Mecking K-Momo still getting the kills through as well. Sound barrier to keep them safe. And double kill on the pulse bomb secures the second third. Flash Wolves instantly on the back foot off the back of that, and no contest as Hong Kong Attitude end up capping faster than Flash Wolves despite a much slower point A.
That was unprecedented. You did not expect Flash Wolves to give away B so easily. When Flash Wolves kept A so quickly, they struggled onto B. This was a complete turnaround on the Hong Kong Attitude side, because everything that they lost on A, they made up for onto B. And now suddenly, we have a very competitive time bank where Hong Kong Attitude are sitting nice and pretty ahead of Flash Wolves.
And honestly, that was Hong Kong attitude, having been able to get some successful point B defenses. You do just want to see them winning a few more times where you feel like they should be winning in terms of the ultimates. For example, on their point A offense and also on their point B defense when Flash Wolves did end up winning it. But the fact that they're ahead in time means despite not getting it all the time when you feel they should, they're still mostly coming out ahead, at least in terms of the map as a whole.
And so this is when we need to see Hong Kong attitude show up on those, I guess, inconsistencies, because you do want to see them start to win when they want to win, rather less than when they're winning in situations that are a little bit more strange, when they're not expected to win and they somehow pull out a win. You want to be structured enough as a team to be kind of like Flash Wolves in a sense, kind of like Artie in a sense, when you plan to win, you get that win, and this is how you can be a consistent team. So for Hong Kong attitude still though, they got to be happy with the progress they've made so far.
The truth is as well, that somehow has actually been just some better positional play out of them. And it started to pay off, right? They are looking a little tidier. Same composition now out of Flash Wolves. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But Hong Kong attitude smartly going to adapt their own team comp. Let's see if they can close out some of the crucial kills on members like Sinclair.
The adaptation is good here because Hong Kong attitude have the right kind of composition to really take the Flash Wolves. No, they can't really take Zonda, but if they can beat the rest of the ground force, then they can get the job done. But Hong Kong attitude, they got baited into a Flash Wolves, I guess, position, and it's not good enough.
They went too deep onto Bacon Jack, really, just kind of walking through Junkrat bombs on the way in, and he survived. It was just a bait from Flash Wolves. And again, this is the sort of thing that actually, if Hong Kong attitude had done their homework, they should be reading, they should be expecting.
Well, the problem is they did expect that. They expected it enough to play a faster composition that says, yes, we're going to dive onto the Junkrat, yes, we're going to get onto the back line, but not smart enough and not adaptable enough to say, okay, but we're also not going to overcommit into a Junkrat trap, into a Junkrat kill box, and that's exactly what happened. And now Hong Kong attitude on the back foot. Moe, though, he's going to try a bit of Junkrat himself.
Because Flash Wolves made some changes, though, in their own team comp, they don't have ultimates to snowball with, and they actually don't have a lot of time to charge them up either. So really, one fight win here from Hong Kong attitude would be good news.
To see exactly what Hong Kong attitude can achieve out of this, we've already seen Junkrat be rather ineffective on the B camp itself. Just too many open spaces, not enough closed, narrow corridors. And Bacon Jack, this is how he got the cap in the first place. It's making it work again.
Losing Randy as well, unfortunately. Flash Wolves already just ahead in the fight. Getting that first third through, and they're just not getting the spam damage out of the Junkrat. Now Bacon Jack, like you said, able to sit aggressively in front of the spawn. They got the ultimates to do it as well. Hong Kong attitude, though, last chance to try and break out. He may get Mango Jai. No, not quite. Good Bionade. Does just barely get the kill at the back end, but the members of Hong Kong attitude got onto the point. That could be what swings it for them. The Rip Tire doesn't quite catch those members. The self-destruct kills Randy. There is still no stabilization from Hong Kong attitude. CQB with the Transcendence on top of Zonda here with this tactical visor. Lindo gets some damage in, and they get a few kills to close it out, just barely in the nick of time with a few ultimates in the back pocket. You feel like it should never have got that far for Flash Wolves in the first place, though.
And once again, this is a situation where Hong Kong attitude on the back foot, when Flash Wolves started to look like they were really winning, they got the positioning, they got the ultimates, but suddenly Flash Wolves, they don't get the finish. They're looking for a Hong Kong attitude consistently turning around right in the final moments. And speaking of final moments, 15 seconds left to go, only one push left, but only one tick to cap.
Luckily for Flash Wolves, they do get that one last push. You're quite right there, despite only having just under 2 minutes to start with. Now, Bacon Jack already looking to get that big pulse bomb in the backside of the fight, looking to thread the needle, going deep for the supports. He's desperate for them. Great stick on to Mango Jai, and there's no kills yet for Hong Kong attitude. Now Bacon Jack can be uncontested in stopping the respawns. Good play self-destruct, buys time, but they hadn't actually killed enough members, nor was the overtime deep enough for that to secure the fight win for Hong Kong attitude. And now Flash Wolves going aggressive again. All they've lost so far has been K-Momo's mech, and they're just getting the kills through themselves as Bacon Jack stopping these respawners from coming in. That is going to be the full cap out again from Flash Wolves in time back.
And into the overtime as well, the final moment when it really matters for Flash Wolves. This time around, instead of Hong Kong attitude turning it back, Flash Wolves get the victory they've been looking for. They play it a little bit slower. They don't overcommit into Mui's Junkrat. Zonda is the one that really zones him out and collects the kill into Mui, making sure that he actually dies before the next Riptide comes out. But it has to start with Bacon Jack because he's the one that got that original pulse bomb stick off the Mango Jai, forces CQB back into spawn as well, and suddenly the tables turn in Flash Wolves' favor rather rapidly.
And by the way, I say again, how many times has Bacon Jack done exactly that? Surely Hong Kong Attitude should be expecting it by now. That's what, the third time he's done that successfully, and there was another time he did it just slightly unsuccessfully as well. If you're not expecting this as Hong Kong Attitude, then you're not reading the game, you're not adapting quick enough. If you're winning, you're getting by. You could be winning harder.
I think everyone at the end of the day, on some level, could and perhaps should even be winning harder. I think for Flash...
Everyone could be playing better.
I think for Hong Kong Attitude, though, they have come out in many fights already where they were expected to lose. That's kind of where you got to compliment this team a little, and it has to go back to a previous comment I made, which is it does feel inconsistent, and it feels inconsistent because Hong Kong Attitude never looked like they're really planning to win. It's just them scrambling to try and make the pieces fall into place and bring it together. And this time, unfortunately, right at the end of the time bank, it just didn't happen, and that's what it looks like when the inconsistency hits you.
What they need this time around is a much faster point A cap and a similarly fast point B cap. Nothing less will do for Hong Kong Attitude. And already big pressure. Oh, Mui, good follow-up out of Jongi. That means Hong Kong Attitude just kind of have to wait and try and get a respawn and regroup.
This could be a trap, though, that Flash Wolves may be sitting here because for Hong Kong Attitude, they're not retreating very quickly.
Yeah, they're taking way too long. They're going to lose Randy's mech in the mix as well, and they don't quite get the trade onto Jongi that they were after. That's a late D-mech, and it's hard for him to reset it as well.
Bacon Jack living on 9 HP was pretty critical. Flash Wolves just keeping themselves alive. You talk about the fact that Hong Kong Attitude need a really quick A here, but actually for Flash Wolves, because they're working with less time bank and Hong Kong Attitude have more time going into this attack, Flash Wolves got to win more fights defensively to force an overtime push for Hong Kong Attitude on either A or B.
Well, already one fight win on A is good news for them. Hong Kong Attitude, though, have been able to regroup now. No one dead. Oh, dear, Shailin.
Someone did.
Yeah, down to the Helix Rock. And that means that Sound Barrier isn't going to be able to do too much for them. They actually just need to wait for Shailin. That means they lose more time. Flash Wolves know it. They go aggressive. This time, though, it doesn't pay off as they lose Jongi.
We'll have to see now Hong Kong Attitude how they approach this next juncture because they're still just waiting for an opportunity to strike. With Jongi down, you'd think this is the moment, and now with Bacon Jack down, there's really no excuse.
Yeah, it is the moment, and they go aggressive off the back of it. They got the ultimates to convert as well. Zonda uses the tactical visor to try and save the fight, but maybe he's going to be kicking himself when he sat there on point B wishing he had a tactical visor. So that's now off the table, and the ultimates for Hong Kong Attitude to snowball for point B are all there.
That's a one-to-one ultimate trade at the end of the day. Shailin threw away the pulse bomb as well, but the rest of Hong Kong Attitude are looking just fine. You're really waiting on Realman to get the sound barrier here. That's Flash Wolves' option to get the defense in. Otherwise, it's only Sinclair, and you've already mentioned it, but no tactical visors. Once again, Bacon Jack going to put the team on his back.
Instant aggression from Mui, but again, maybe too quick. Forces out a couple of ultimates, though, naming the self-destruct so that K-Momo can stay in the fight, but that means he can't use it to zone them off the point. 1/3 capped up. This is good for Hong Kong Attitude so far, but Flash Wolves are getting back in the fight. They pick Mango Jai. Where are the members of Hong Kong Attitude? They need to be keeping aggression on. They need to be keeping Flash Wolves kettled there. You need to hold them at bay, but now they're able to turn on the gas again. But losing CQB, and with Mango Jai still respawning, they don't have the healers to do this. It's all just going to be Shailin and Mui, and they're instantly getting low. Zonda tactical visor out means they stop them up shy of that second third. Now Hong Kong Attitude only have one last chance to do it.
Flash Wolves, this is an important fight victory for them because they need to win at least one more fight here. They got to drag it out to reach the overtime. Otherwise, Hong Kong Attitude still have yet another opportunity to regroup and reassess the situation and re-attack and re-engage. So now, Flash Wolves, how long can they make this fight last? How much time can they shave off the clock before Hong Kong Attitude have to play in overtime?
On the other side of that, can Hong Kong Attitude get it done quickly? Ooh, Mui getting pressured, able to stay alive. That could be the crucial Dragon Blade. Oh, the pulse bomb in! There's a good one. Gets Sinclair. Good open. Luckily, not getting any more for Flash Wolves. Now they're going to get aggressive as they convert onto Realman, and this is going south for Flash Wolves. Bacon Jack does not get a good pulse bomb and gets pressured out as well. The Dragon Blade, it doesn't get kills, but it gets a ton of damage. They've got the members up. It's just Zonda and Bacon Jack who have to now stand on the point, but they can't. It's too dangerous. Bacon Jack gets run on the backside. Hong Kong Attitude, they need to stabilize and get more kills. There's Realman. No one on the point. 133 is there now, gets to go into second time bank, but Flash Wolves do earn themselves an extra minute. It's not over yet.
Oh boy, a double time bank for these teams. If you thought it was neck and neck on either of the previous maps, or I guess specifically Lee Jung, because Icon was more Flash Wolves, this time around, it's hard to call exactly who's going to take it because even though Hong Kong Attitude are technically ahead here, it doesn't feel like a commanding lead. It still feels like a real struggle. Flash Wolves at any moment could really capitalize. It only takes one mistake now from either side to determine a clear winner.
And I'm going to say, generally speaking, Flash Wolves are looking better across the board. They're looking a little bit more consistent, but when Hong Kong Attitude are going off, they're going off much better than Flash Wolves are. And that's kind of what's making the difference here. That extra time that they had going into the first time bank is what allowed them to cap with time still on the clock. Now they're going to have extra time in the second time bank. It's a narrower margin. That's the saving grace for Flash Wolves, but it is still Hong Kong Attitude ahead. If they can hold out on point A here, where they've failed to do so in the past, then they are very well set up to win this map.
And you said it right there because A is really important. A is what's been making the big difference here because so far, Flash Wolves have consistently been better on A, both in attack and also on defense. If that history repeats itself again, you can expect Flash Wolves to really get a victory here because the time bank difference has been tightening.
They're going for the swing play here. All they need is one, maybe even two good headshots from Mui, and this is already favored for Hong Kong Attitude. But if Flash Wolves can get set up and get onto the point, then Mui becomes dead weight.
It's not going to stay favored for long because you sort of mentioned that there. Mui doesn't have too many angles to work with defensively. You want to be on the attack here to really be effective.
That is a big one for them, losing the healer now. They've got enough time for him to respawn, but it's now going to be an overtime fight. Flash Wolves able to retreat without losing anyone else, though.
Well, they need to get Sinclair back into this, and it's a strange thing to see Mui still really uncontested here, but he is well defended by the rest of his team. The final fight now for Flash Wolves. No one has an ultimate, but somebody needs to strike first.
Jongi getting low, and they just have to go for the fight now. Bacon Jack gets fireballed by Mango Jai on the Zenyatta, and Mui able to stay alive as well. Means again, Hong Kong Attitude ahead in this fight, but it's all about conversion now. Good headshot onto Jongi, and that a huge number step to sit Flash Wolves get on the point, but the sidelines favor Mui right now. The kills are still just barely coming through, and they're keeping the tanks alive. Great pressure on Sinclair, and that is going to be the point A hold that they've been lacking thus far. Now, with a minute and a half on the clock, a third is all Hong Kong Attitude need.
Flash Wolves, this is starting to look very difficult for them. Like, you may still be able to expect a draw here because Flash Wolves defensively have held easily for 1 minute 30 so far on their 8 defenses. What really went wrong there for their attack, though, is if you're going up against Mui, why go on that top right side when Mui's side angles are more open? Go through hydroponics, hugging the left side wall, go in the small house as well. That's when you really nullify Mui's angles, and that's where you can aggress them rather quickly. So maybe a couple mistakes there from Flash Wolves, but they're going to need to correct them now. Hong Kong Attitude, I'm still not really convinced they can complete this attack.
I mean, hey, it's shame on me if you fool me twice, isn't it? But you're completely right there. A Hong Kong Attitude can't necessarily do it on the attack. It could just be the same thing, though, where, you know, a couple of picks out of maybe Mui on the Widowmaker makes it work for them, and maybe they opt for something altogether different. A minute and a half is enough time to do it, but it's also plenty of time to hold.
A minute and a half is enough buffer time that you can make one mistake. If you make one mistake, you go back to spawn, you regroup, and you re-attack again. But that's it. You only get one extra life. Any extra mistakes here from Hong Kong Attitude means we're going to a draw.
They're not going to waste any time with the Widowmaker, it seems. They don't want to risk making a mistake. And that's the thing, it would have been high risk, high reward. A pick could have won it, but a lack thereof could have lost it.
Pick is still going to be important here. They're just going to have to get it through different means. Look for Shine and Mui to work together. For Flash Wolves, this should be a very difficult hold to break if they can protect Zonda effectively and if Bacon Jack can continue doing Bacon Jack.
And they're doing the dive again onto Mui. This time, though, he's able to stay alive. That could be the crucial difference here because that was what stalled them up last time on this point A attack.
Zonda once again staying alive here. Really critical. Hong Kong Attitude now making their way on this high ground, so they have forced Flash Wolves down. This is good, slow movement to really force Flash Wolves into a bad spot, but the key word there is slow because you don't have time to work with, and now that buffer time has expired. No more chances for a mistake from the Hong Kong Attitude side.
Yeah, they've just got to get aggressive. They'll maybe get one more last-ditch fight, but if this is a slow loss, then no such luck. They're waiting. They're biding their time. They still haven't actually committed to it yet, and now they might not have extra time for a final fight if they lose this one.
And this works well for Flash Wolves because Flash Wolves haven't had to really do much yet, and they've already shaved a minute off. That's 1 minute less than Hong Kong Attitude really wanted to use, and they don't have it anymore. It's all or nothing.
They try and lay a trap for Jongi, and Ting is able to stay alive, but they don't convert the kills. It's Mui who goes down. They lose Randy as well, and the tactical Baizu is able to come up for Zonda. Not enough respect given to that, and with 10 seconds left, Hong Kong Attitude, they're not going to be able to get onto this in time, and in a disastrously slow push, we're going to Golden Point.
You'd almost expect Hong Kong Attitude to take that a little bit more aggressively, knowing that you have that extra buffer time. Go in quickly, get the attack done, even if you lose, then re-attack secondly later. Because they took so long, Hong Kong Attitude just missed the mark, and Flash Wolves got there first. Flash Wolves got their ultimates first. Zonda did such a great job initially with his damage output. The tactical visor is just a nail in the coffin at the end of the day.
That's the thing, right? They were in position and ready to go, and then they still didn't go for about 20 seconds. And that's the 20 seconds that was almost the entirety of the difference in that time bank in the end. You can't help but feel that Hong Kong Attitude had the ability to do that. And it started back when they finished the initial push with more time than Flash Wolves going into the first time bank. The fact that they then didn't get that point A cap when they'd finally got a successful point A defense, it became Hong Kong Attitude's game to lose at that point, or at least game to go to a draw. Now sitting on Golden Point, sure you won control, but that was a tight win. Really, it was a win given to you by a mistake made by Flash Wolves. That's not comfortable territory for Hong Kong Attitude.
And so far, it does seem like the win Hong Kong Attitude have come out ahead. It is somewhat mistakes by Flash Wolves, so they're not really in control of their own fate. It just feels like if Flash Wolves are playing well, Hong Kong Attitude are not winning here. But if Flash Wolves make a mistake, then Hong Kong Attitude can punish. But otherwise, Hong Kong Attitude are just at the mercy of what Flash Wolves decide.
Yeah, it really does feel that way. And you've got to compare the obvious here. AHQ's series against Flash Wolves, when AHQ were winning, they were really in the driver's seat. That was an extremely close matchup as a whole. Now look, right now this matchup is similarly close, but it feels like when Hong Kong Attitude win, it's off the back of moments of brilliance, right? It's not off the back of clean, coordinated play. It's not off the back of reacting to how Flash Wolves play. It's just them playing so well they're overcoming Flash Wolves, whereas AHQ were overcoming Flash Wolves because they were picking Flash Wolves apart. You can't help but feel that if Hong Kong Attitude were tapping into that too, they could be really easily coming out the better of these two teams.
This is an important distinction to make when you consider Hong Kong Attitude as a third-place team right now, because if they want to be a second-place team instead, they need to get those inconsistencies sorted. They need to really be in the driver's seat, as you said, to really take control of the game and beat Flash Wolves the way that AHQ did it, because right now they look like a third-place team, and that's why they're in the third place.
And the thing you've got to start being concerned about as well, when you compare AHQ's victory against Flash Wolves, if Hong Kong Attitude aren't able to do the same, then actually they're probably not the third place team anymore. They're the fourth place team, it just hasn't happened yet. It is going to be Golden Point though on Nepal, and Hong Kong Attitude are the ones who get the pick for that, thanks to having that home side. That could be the saving grace. And the map is going to be, drum roll please. No
Drum roll. Sanctum.
Sanctum, there we go.
Let's get to it already.
And
Yes,
I'd like to believe that we're only here because all 12 members jumped into the pond of Lijiang Tower Gardens.
That's exactly what it was.
Yep.
At various points throughout Lijiang Tower, everyone went into the pond at least once, and now they all finally arrive on Nepal. But this is going to be Golden Point. There is no full 3 maps or anything. It's only going to be Sanctum.
Seeing Bacon Jake on Junkrat's really interesting here as well. If they can control this sort of high ground area, this narrow corridor, this is when Flash Wolves can get a lot of work done. So for Hong Kong Attitude, they need to make sure they find the opening first and they aggress first.
The spam here is really solid for this opening jostling of positioning, but it does make it a little harder for Flash Wolves to make the move on the point itself when that unlocks. So they have to actually get kills here. Hong Kong Attitude so far weathering the storm, now making the move around to set up for the point, but they lose Mui. That's going to be the crucial one, and no response kill yet because Hong Kong Attitude aren't really going aggressive themselves. They're just kind of sitting there letting Flash Wolves spam.
And the problem is the spam angle is really good from here. We have both Bacon Jake and Zonda together on the high ground. Tanks are capping the point itself. This is when Hong Kong Attitude needs to make the choice. Are you going for the cap, in which case you're eating the spam, or are you going for the damage dealers, in which case the tanks can come back to protect them. Also, they can protect themselves because it's so narrow.
Mui has at least broken through, so this is going to force Flash Wolves to pull back a little bit, but in that pullback, they still get the spam, and Hong Kong Attitude aren't actually getting anything just yet. Now finally moving on to the objective itself, they need to get kills. They need to convert something out of the ultimates they're charging up.
Speaking of not getting anything yet, it's taking a long time for Hong Kong Attitude to really make a decision.
Oh,
here.
they got
Here
a
comes the
cap.
sound barrier and a flip. It's good.
Yeah, and that forces out the Transcendence to keep Jongi alive, and the Tactical Visor comes out as well. But actually, Flash Wolves are only just doing this to get back onto the point, back into the fight. Mango Try with his Transcendence goes down at the end, and Bacon Jack held onto the Rip Tire. Hong Kong Attitude just don't get anything for that time they had on the point. 4 of the ultimates they forced out of Flash Wolves. They had them driven all the way back, and then they just let Flash Wolves come back in.
The Flash Wolves, though, if anything lost here, they lost a lot of time. 24% is 24 seconds. So for Hong Kong Attitude, they buy themselves an additional fight at the end of the match if they can make it that far. Because for Flash Wolves so far, back in control, back in positioning, and Hong Kong Attitude back to the drawing board.
Yeah, Mui finally off the Genji, something that he has struggled to make work the entirety of Assault. And by the way, this is still technically Assault. This is Golden Point because that went to a tiebreaker. You've got to believe that the Soldier can do more for Mui than the Genji did.
But it is time lost,
Oh,
all
dear.
time lost because you have to wait for Shylin, extra time lost because Mui had to switch heroes entirely. You're just resetting more and more ultimates, and now Flash Wolves going on the offensive, getting the damage done, Hong Kong Attitude stuck in their base, while Flash Wolves are nearly ticking up to 80%, nearly in range of winning the entire map.
Is this what you're going to do, Hong Kong Attitude? Are you going to play slow again when it's what put you in this time bank Golden Point situation? Losing Mango Chai now at the top of this fight, and Bacon Jack just gets free reign again because Hong Kong Attitude are playing it slow. Even as the pressure comes out with a couple of kills on the board, Flash Wolves are still in position, Flash Wolves are still on the point, Flash Wolves are now at 96%, and Hong Kong Attitude don't really have presence in this fight. The Transcendence out of Sinclair, buying them the extra time now. A Ting has to go charging on. Hong Kong Attitude are already separated. They're already in disarray, and it's 99% for Flash Wolves, trying to get anything done, but Hong Kong Attitude can't get these kills through. Mui dies mid-Tactical Visor to the self-destruct, bump off the edge for Mango Chai mid-Transcendence, and at no point did Hong Kong Attitude get aggressive, and with that, Flash Wolves secure Golden Point, secure Assault, and take us to match point.
And it is interesting because when you really look at what happened there in the middle of Sanctum, even when Hong Kong Attitude got that cap through, even when it looked like Hong Kong Attitude had the leg up, it was still Flash Wolves in control, dictating the pace of the game, dictating the places where you fight and how and when and who and why and what happens essentially. So Flash Wolves just never really took their foot off the pedal.
And you've got to believe Hong Kong Attitude are underperforming today or something, right? Because they're just not learning. They're just not adapting to what Flash Wolves are doing. And you don't want to say it too harshly, but on the whole, the slow play cost them on Horizon Lunar Colony when they could have capped that 1/3 they needed on point A. It cost them again here on Golden Point on Nepal because it plays right into the Junkrat. They did need to play a little slower because of the Soldier. They only needed to go onto the Soldier because Mui wasn't getting the mileage done on the Genji. And on the whole, this just doesn't feel like the Hong Kong Attitude that is in 3rd place in this tournament. This feels like the Hong Kong Attitude that was on the up and hadn't hit their ceiling yet. This has been a bit of a step backwards for them.
I guess the alternative angle to take there, as we sort of reassess the situation, which is that Hong Kong Attitude are now facing a match point scenario where Flash Wolves are 2-1 ahead, is that actually that's one take on it. The alternate angle to look at is maybe this is just how good Hong Kong Attitude are. I'm not convinced that they're underperforming. I'm more convinced that this is just Flash Wolves showing why they're actually better than Hong Kong Attitude, and Hong Kong Attitude showing again why they're just that one step behind the Flash Wolves. And it's just history repeating itself. This is just as good as Hong Kong Attitude are.
And that is completely fair as well, because the reality is the Flash Wolves are that one team from Season 1 Hong Kong Attitude never beat, and it could just be that they are the team that Hong Kong Attitude never beat. You never go beyond Flash Wolves, and that means not only do you never beat them, you never even get to challenge whoever is above Flash Wolves. In Season 1, that was no one, but now that's not true. That means your best potential finish might just be 3rd place. If you end up dropping to the Resurgent, now AHQ, your best may only be 4th place. And that's the thing. if you're a Hong Kong Attitude fan, you want to believe that they've got a higher ceiling than this. You want to believe that they can adapt to what Flash Wolves are doing. Ideally, they should, right? If they want to be able to be better than third place, but maybe they just can't.
Well, let's take a look at the replays now and find out exactly where went wrong for Hong Kong Attitude and maybe what went right for the Flash Wolves. And this is going to be the opening play out from Flash Wolves. I believe we're already into time bank for this, and we can see the Bacon Jack and Zonda projectile plays. This is when Hong Kong Attitude went a little bit too deep. They understood they had to get aggressive upon this lineup, this composition of Flash Wolves, but the Bacon Jack trap is exactly what happened. He sprung that in the kill box, and Hong Kong Attitude were just, unfortunately, victims.
Yeah. The thing is, ideally, maybe wanted to find a way to take out Singlet and then Zonda before that, but by that point, you probably wouldn't have needed to dive Bacon Jack on the Junkrat. Look, they made a decision to take the Junkrat out of the fight, and then with a numbers advantage, turn around on the rest of the team. But the reality is you do that going through a whole bunch of Junkrat bombs, which is AoE damage, plus the AoE damage from this Pharaoh that is uncontested in the skies. I know it's indoors, so air. It's not really the sky.
It's a big
at that
ceiling.
point. So yeah, it's a very high ceiling. But the point is that the Pharaoh is uncontested there. So actually, your team, as they file into this tiny little door, eat a ton of AoE damage. Wouldn't have even mattered.
Tasty
Yeah,
AoE.
delicious, right? Wouldn't have, you can feed a whole family. It wouldn't have even mattered actually if they had killed Bacon Jack, which they didn't, by the way, because at that point, a Ting was low, Randy was low, Shylin was low. There was just no way they could do anything else in that fight. Flash Wolves, on the other hand, had them surrounded, had plenty of health. Hong Kong Attitude would have had to fight their way out of the room just to get back to the point.
Now, Hong Kong Attitude, once again, just kind of falling prey to Flash Wolves' game plan there. Flash Wolves knew what they had to do. That composition for them worked a charm twice in a row, and always on the first attempt of result. It's not like Flash Wolves were ever forced to reset, Flash Wolves ever forced to reconsolidate their team. They just made it work time and time again, and even when you think Hong Kong Attitude adapted to it, they didn't adapt enough because Hong Kong Attitude didn't see the extra play that Flash Wolves made, which is Flash Wolves also adapting to the plays that Hong Kong Attitude want to make to counter them in the first place.
Exactly, and the one time there was arguably an adaptation from Hong Kong Attitude, it was on that final time bank defense where Mui went on to the Widowmaker, and it paid off for them, which is, honestly, you can't say much more about that. It was the right thing to do, and it worked. Good stuff. But the unfortunate thing is then the adaptation from there kind of failed them. Again, they were out the gate with Mui on the Genji. And look, Mui's Genji is good, but it just wasn't working tonight. Just didn't seem to have the magic. They weren't quite able to cover him when he was getting aggressive. The target prioritization from Jongi has been great, and they took so long setting up. They just didn't get anything. You can't help but think, look, maybe if Mui had been on the Soldier, taking the time would have worked out because they would have charged up a tactical visor, but all they did was gave Zonda a tactical visor on the defense.
Yeah, you do have to question whether that's maybe just a symptom of the actual problem in the first place, which is actually you need to have a team play decision where we say we're going to go in and then Mui gets the space to work with, because Mui can't actually do much on the Genji unless the teams, including the tanks, can really get in there and make the space first. This is why area control is really important. This is why the long setups can work, but they took too long. 1 minute for the setup was not effective enough, especially when you consider the payout wasn't a win, it was a loss.
And the thing I kind of touched on there as well is then when we went to Golden Point, they were slow. They played slowly. They played into Flash Wolves' hand by playing slowly as well. It's like it cost you on Assault. It puts you in this Golden Point situation. And then by doing it again, not only are you actually just making the same mistake twice, which has its own kind of repercussions, it's also even more beneficial for Flash Wolves this time around. And that's why I say, you've got to worry with Hong Kong Attitude here. If they can't adapt to what it is Flash Wolves are doing, then you're right, maybe this is just as far as they go.
We'll just see exactly how far they can go. Don't want to write this match off too quickly because now we're into map number 4. Route 66, it's Escort, something we don't go to very often. Route 66, that is, I'm talking about. Escort, we've seen a decent amount so far in the season. Flash Wolves as the away team, it is their pick, and you got to think it doesn't get easier now for Hong Kong Attitude. We already mentioned that Escort is potentially Flash Wolves favored, and now on match point as well, Hong Kong Attitude got to pull something out the bag.
They really do have to. And the thing is, this is kind of endemic of a lot of Flash Wolves' results so far. They actually dropped control pretty consistently throughout the first round robin, with only one exception being against Liberal and Supreme. And even here, I mean, without wanting to obsess on the detail, they did kind of lose Lee Jung Tower because of a mistake they made, but what that means is the ability to win was all there for them. Really, they should have won the control mode anyway. So you do feel like, for all the closeness that has been exhibited in this series, Flash Wolves have so far felt like the better of these two teams, and that is currently reflected in the scoreline. Now as they go to their own map pick, you gotta believe that this is the team favored to close it out here, and the pressure is on Hong Kong Attitude to try and even up the series.
We've already seen a bit of a turnaround as well, and you do have to go back to the first time these two teams met in Season 2, and the third map of that original series was Horizon Lunar Colony, and it was in fact a Hong Kong Attitude victory. When we got to Escort, back then it was Watchpoint Gibraltar, and that then was a Flash Wolves victory. So now that we're on to Route 66, maybe the potential to rewrite history for Hong Kong Attitude, because it's not Watchpoint Gibraltar again. You got a new chance, a new opportunity, but at a minimum, Hong Kong Attitude got to draw this out to a map 5.
And if you want to cast your mind back as well, that Watchpoint Gibraltar for Hong Kong Attitude was wildly inconsistent. It was actually potentially winnable at a couple of junctures for them, but they didn't get it over the line when it counted. They made a lot of mistakes that ended up costing them. So look, the potential to win it was absolutely there. Maybe that will also be true on Route 66, but also what little Route 66 we have seen with Flash Wolves playing it has always looked good for Flash Wolves. I don't know that I can quite say the same for Hong Kong Attitude.
And Hong Kong Attitude have to be concerned as well, because when it was Watchpoint Gibraltar, it was a first camp hold from Flash Wolves on A. Flash Wolves themselves got held up on B, but, you know, it doesn't really matter when the case is that Flash Wolves were just better on that defense. With the defending side pick, or rather the away side pick, that means Flash Wolves get to determine if they want to start an attack or defense. You probably think defense looks pretty good here.
You'd think so.
Yep, I do think
Yeah.
so.
Pretty standard to start on the defending side as well. There are a couple of teams that have
Ardent.
Ardent like going attack first sometimes, Mega like going attack first sometimes, and I believe we've seen Liberlin and Matchy do it on the odd occasion as well. And actually, yeah, that is just going to be Flash Wolves opting to defend first.
Back on the Sombra as well, this is something else we expect from Flash Wolves. We haven't had the opportunity to see the Sombra play so far in the series. Not even when we play Lee Jung Tower Control Center, which is another place where Flash Wolves traditionally have pulled it out. But now Sinclair, let's see what he can do.
Got their own Sombra on the attack, so it's going to be a bit of a battle of the EMPs, but naturally Sinclair's going to be able to get the initial health pack control, so you assume he'll get his first, but if he dies, it won't actually count for much.
And this is the corner that gets very critical here, because Flash Wolves, they do not want to see a lot of movement from the cart at this first bend. Good area control from Flash Wolves is incredibly important as Sinclair gets closer and closer to that EMP. And Bacon Jack, well, he's Bacon Jack.
Yeah, that's that dive from the Tracer Winston duo that we talked about right at the start of the match. Completely knocks out the supports, means Hong Kong Attitude really can't afford to push now that EMP economy is online.
And Moe is so far behind. As an attacking Sombra, you are always disadvantaged when it comes to health pack control. Only when you start to get the health pack, rather when you get the card around the bend, you start pushing away the Flash Wolves. You got to kill Sinclair in the middle of this as well. That's when you come out ahead. Sinclair ready to strike.
Ooh, actually didn't quite get the positional setup there because Hong Kong Attitude weren't as clustered as he was anticipating. Plus a pick on derailment. There is a window here for Hong Kong Attitude, but they're not actually getting any card distance.
The big problem here is they've waited long enough that Mui himself has now an EMP, and Mui commits first.
That's big. Yeah, he did end up committing first, and they instantly converted onto Sinclair. They took that extra moment to go on the cart, and it ended up baiting Flash Wolves in. That was a really sneaky move by them. It's like Flash Wolves went, is something wrong? Are they not actually set up? Let's take advantage of it. Kind of a bit of a mind game play from Hong Kong Attitude.
And something absolutely went wrong there from Flash Wolves, because Flash Wolves were so far ahead. They got the initial fight win, but they never really took advantage of that. Sinclair getting shut down was just a big part of Hong Kong Attitude being a control player.
And the EMP does come through out of Sinclair this time, but Jungie was already dead. They weren't quite in the ideal position because Zonda and Bacon Jack were still rejoining. That's going to be the cap through. Smart to hold on to the Tactical Visor and Pulse Bomb, but that's all they get to hold on to.
That's a big letdown for Flash Wolves as well because they were in such a commanding position. They had all the lead that they required, and one mistake, one decision error cost them that entire A. We're already on to B rather quickly of a Hong Kong attitude. You got to be pretty pleased with the progress you've made so far. For Flash Wolves now, need to shore up on those mistakes that they made. Zonda has to find these kills now, finally with the Tactical Visor.
Yeah, he's got the right position for it, but Hong Kong attitude this time willing to take their time, the right kind of time. Randy commit the self-destruct to keep his own life, and they actually catch Jongi as he's in a little deep. No one's really in the sightline of this Tactical Visor because Jongi had gone aggressive, so Hong Kong attitude pulled back. Now Zonda gets aggressed upon and he goes down, and Flash Wolves just a little uncoordinated on that one. Great EMP connect. Mui does go down, but they convert on Sinclair. They're getting pressure onto K-Momo as well, demeching him, getting the Realman picking among that. The payload lost some momentum now for Hong Kong attitude.
And the worst part is, well, K-Momo got demeched on 99%, so he doesn't even have the opportunity to self-destruct immediately, get his mech back. This car just continues to move, and still you're waiting to see where Flash Wolves actually strike. When do Flash Wolves make their move? Because so far, ever since that blunder on A has happened, Hong Kong attitude have just been in the lead.
And it was another blunder as well. Why use the Tactical Visor when you know that they're going to be pulling back? Instantly catching Jongi as well. The Tiger prioritization has just shot through the roof here for Hong Kong attitude. Now they're looking to get back around on the other side of this fight. Shailin finding Sinclair on the back end. Great catch for him. The self-destruct from K-Momo does demech Randy, but they're not actually stopping the cart with that. In fact, no one stopped the cart at all, so it just gets capped while K-Momo is still pulling back. They catch Realman on the backside, and now they got these stagger kills. They're going to get some free distance here. Killing Bacon Jack too. Why not?
Yeah, the stagger kills do not end, and the cart does continue to move. And so for Hong Kong attitude, if you looked at Eichenwald as a bit of a problematic map, this is a complete 180 from that because Flash Wolves have just not had one good defense so far. Aside from the quick 2 kills that Bacon Jack got into A, that was the only good defensive play that Flash Wolves have made. And this time around, if Bacon Jack can't put the whole team in his pocket, nothing's happening.
Randy able to get back in his mech, and Hong Kong attitude of the ultra. Oh no! Committing the EMP as he goes down, along with Shailin as well. And Flash Wolves reading that Hong Kong attitude was setting up that play, getting aggressive at the exact right moment. This is Flash Wolves looking like themselves again.
This needed to be where Flash will stabilize as well as we get on to see the best place for the defense to actually make it work. If you go back to Eichenwald, this is essentially the equivalent of where they made their final hold. So now Flash Wolves 3 minutes and 14. It's not as good as the 2 minutes and 30 that they had on Eichenwald defense, but they'll make it work regardless.
Flash Wolves got some ultimates in the pocket now. Ultimates so they can really get a lot of use out of. Notably, this Deadeye is going to create a lot of space for them. That's Jongi getting very aggressive. Mango Chai able to use the Transcendence, keeps the team in the fight safely enough now, and there's that Deadeye. Doesn't get any kills, but they get the zoning and now kind of reset from Hong Kong attitude.
Flash Wolves, good pressure to knock to just stall out Hong Kong attitude for the time being so far. But what you're really waiting for the HKA side is this EMP play. Mui just getting really close to it, nearly onto the 100%. And when it does come up, that's when they should be striking.
Shailin doesn't quite connect with the Pulse Bomb. He got some good damage on Jongi, but closed out, and they lose Mui to Zonda there. And again, Flash Wolves just reading this positioning. Good trade kill though. Shailin a little too low to get that same pressure on Bacon Jack though. So it's still just a fight reset.
And now it's 2 minutes and 13 seconds remaining, and now you do have to look at Eichenwald again because this is when the mirror starts to happen. This is how Flash Wolves get this lead, and Hong Kong attitude just don't have what it takes to finish the map. They had a good A, a good B, but Flash Wolves, once they're dug in, they're dug in.
They've got the ultimates here, Hong Kong attitude. You got to believe they can do it, but they're just trying to find the way in, and Flash Wolves know that. They're reading it, but pressure on the Jongi. They're not going to commit the EMP because they know there's the self-destruct, which kills CQB as well, by the way. Takes that ultimate off the table. A Ting so low. It's a good Transcendence, keeps a Ting alive, and Randy self-destruct as well. Doesn't get anything, but they at least stay in the fight. But now losing Mango Chai, they only stayed in the fight. They didn't actually get a lead in it, and they used a lot of ultimates for it as well. They're still losing members. Now Shailin goes down, and all they did was threw ultimates into your Flash Wolves victory.
And that was Hong Kong Attitude, rather uncoordinated. It didn't seem like they were really sure what the game plan was. They had already lost a member, and Ting wasn't sure if he should ult or not, so he used the Primal Rage, and Mui was just undecided on the EMP, finally uses it, but everyone just lost their abilities. Everyone lost the momentum and the initiative to actually take advantage of the EMP, so nothing happened for Hong Kong Attitude, and you're right, it just fed Flash Wolves further, and it just makes the defense even stronger.
Now, basically, they just need to get a big pulse bomb out of Shailin. That is not the kind of ultimate you want to be relying on. It's great when it happens, but it is not at all reliable, not consistent. But if anyone can do it, it's Shailin. There it goes out, doesn't get enough for it. Jongi has Primal Rage though, so him being low is good, but Singlet can save him with the Transcendence as soon as they need, and a Ting low doesn't have the same kind of ultimate to save his life. EMP is out, but this time the conversion is there. They catch Singler as well, who could have used the Transcendence had that EMP not come out, and the hack on Bacon Jack means he goes down. The stagger kills a big Hong Kong Attitude, getting the distance now, and largely in control of the fight now, getting CQB back into it.
This is still well defensible by Flash Wolves. We can consider both defensive ultimates are available, and here come the Flash Wolves. This
Down
is when they've got to
barrier.
make it count.
They've got all the ultimates, but a good hack onto Jongi. The Transcendence from Singlet can save him this time, but CQB having committed a sound barrier. Shailin goes down to his own pulse bomb, and the Deadeye zones all these members of Hong Kong Attitude, who now do not have the DPSs to get the kills. Randy gonna lose his life, and they don't have the defensive ultimates to keep the tanks alive. And Ting very quick on the Primal Rage, possibly too quick, but it wouldn't really matter much anyway because the members just aren't there. Good distance and nearly a cap, but not quite a cap for Hong Kong Attitude.
Well calculated by Flash Wolves as well. Once again, when you get to these hybrid maps, when you get to the escort type of maps, when a payload is involved, their planning is so meticulous. They know this is when we're going to make their hold happen. Yes, they lost a big team fight right before their final hold, but they knew they had the ultimates to come back in. So double support ultimates, sound barrier into Transcendence, Jedi as well. Everything worked out for Flash Wolves because that's how they planned it out all the way. The bigger problem and the bigger question has to be, what was the planning process for both A and B? Because those were both a shambles.
That was rough. I mean, it was rough for both teams in different places. I'll give some credit to Hong Kong Attitude here because when they did get the payload back underway, the final moment of C, even though they did get stopped up after that, when they got it underway fair and square. Before that, it felt like they were getting a lot of momentum off the back of some Flash Wolves mistakes. There was a big whiff on the point A defense, kind of getting baited in a little bit by Hong Kong Attitude, it felt. And then after that, Jongi and Zonda both pulled the trigger at the same time, but those were ultimates that played against one another because Jongi was pushing all the members out of Zonda's sightline, and you can't help but feel like there was this slight miscommunication there.
There's still not a lot of, still definitely things to work on for both teams, and certainly the inconsistencies do rear their ugly heads around at the wrong times, but it has to be said, Flash Wolves, right in the final moments, when they got the heels stuck into the ground, that's when they really make it count. So when you consider Hong Kong Attitude on the defense now, they really have to get a lot of work done on both A and B because that's where they were successful, and you cannot allow Flash Wolves to also be successful on both of those caps. In fact, the best case scenario here would be to hold on either A or B because again, if we get to C, that's when you got to expect Flash Wolves. They have a plan to play around the specific objective of this is the distance we need to work with.
The other option for Hong Kong Attitude is just to kind of slow Flash Wolves as much as possible, really just play for the clock, because if you put them in a situation where on point C they don't have a lot of time, then maybe you can stop them just shy of equaling. It's a hard ask. It's doable, but it's a hard ask.
Now, it's the next best thing, right? If you're not going to get the A or B hold and you want to hold on to C, then you want Flash Wolves to cap out B in the overtime that's in. So far, Flash Wolves, if we want to talk about time, they're not really able to find the opening just yet, just kind of feeling out this ground, and Hong Kong Attitude and them are trading damage back and forth.
Yeah, another team quite coming out the better of it, but there's the pick on Mango Giant. Instantly, they go aggressive, and it's like the moment they look like they're pulling back, actually, that's when they suddenly go aggressive with Jongi and Bacon Jack diving forward. Then it just seems to catch Hong Kong Attitude every single time.
And this seems so much cleaner than Hong Kong Attitude's attack as well, because when you really consider how Hong Kong Attitude got their attack so quickly, it was off the back of a huge blunder from Flash Wolves. This time around, it's Flash Wolves winning by their own merit.
Zonda actually tried to spot out the move, the contest from Hong Kong Attitude, but he spotted the wrong side. He didn't actually see the members, so they get the opening pick on Realman. And Ting does go down for it, but they've got some good pressure. They can close out on Zonda as well, that'd be huge, but he's able to pull back. EMP does get committed in the midst of it, but the Deadeye, nicely placed. They need to convert kills, but Bacon Jack is still in it. Jongi's not actually dead yet, and now the Transcendence needs stabilization for Flash Wolves, as Hong Kong Attitude got so close, but couldn't close out those last few kills. They do bleed more time off the clock, though. That's at least something that they get out of this fight, but they need to be careful to not feed too much ultimate charging out of Flash Wolves.
That's the consolation plays, right? Because you never really expected Hong Kong Attitude to successfully defend there the way they sort of came in. Flash Wolves were so well set up. The ultimate's online as well now, so for Hong Kong Attitude, the best they can do is just bleed out the timer, and that's what they have achieved, but they have to continue doing that. Like we sort of said already, if you're gonna go to C, Flash Wolves have to be forced to cap B in the overtime.
That's a nice catch on Bacon Jack. It doesn't slow down Flash Wolves too much, though. A, because they get a headshot onto Mui. But B, because that's not really a position where Hong Kong Attitude want to fight anyway. Now Flash Wolves go aggressive. CQB is forced to match the sound barrier, and a Ting forced to use the Primal Rage to stay alive, as now Jongi, with his own one available, can just get aggressive on Mango Jai. Now that's a Transcendence he has to use, and it's not in time to save a Ting. And this is just Flash Wolves using their ultimate advantage to keep momentum on their side, forcing Hong Kong Attitude to use up all their resources and still getting movement on the card.
This is important now for Flash Wolves to continue getting this move on. Eventually, Hong Kong Attitude, when they get their power spike, is when Mui gets his EMP. We've been waiting for some time now. He's been sitting on the Sombra for some time. Finally, the EMP is available. Well, when and where will they strike?
And already, Flash Wolves are set up to just make it as hard as possible for Mui to get out the gate. Nice pulse bomb out, and Mui closes out on Jongi as well, so Flash Wolves kind of have to pull back a little bit from this one. There's the EMP, not in time to stop the self-destruct from K-Momo, but the self-destruct doesn't get any kills. Randy as well, able to get a bit of space with his own self-destruct, and they do convert onto Bacon Jack, but they need to convert onto Zonda, because as long as he is untouched, he can still get shots like that onto these DPSs, and that means they can still contest the card. As they get kills, they can still get movement on the payload, and now as they regroup, Hong Kong Attitude haven't actually stabilized on this defense. Zonda is getting so much done for free.
When Zonda remains untouched, unfortunately, he's still touching you with bullets, deadly bullets. And now Flash Wolves capping on through with a lot of time. 4 minutes and 11. That's a lot more than what Hong Kong Attitude had to work with. We've already mentioned, if we're going to go to C, this is when Flash Wolves get deadly, because they know how much space they have to work with, they know how much time they have to work with, and they have a specific goal in mind. They don't have to push the cart all the way through. They just have to get it to where the box is.
And for goodness sake, can someone kill Zonda? It's starting to stress me out. How low he even gets sometimes. It just feels like he isn't a priority target right now for Hong Kong Attitude, and he should be.
Mui's going to look to try and match him, so this is going to be rather interesting to see if he can achieve that. And for Flash Wolves, though, they are steadily building up those ultimates once again.
And killing a Ting while they're at it. Mango Jai has to use the Transcendence to save CQB, to stop the fight from snowballing in favor of Flash Wolves. But that means Flash Wolves are ahead in ultimates. If Hong Kong Attitude can't convert kills, it's all for naught. The catch on Jongi helps a lot, but they need more than that. K-Momo able to make space. That's a catch on Bacon Jack that they sorely needed, and they close on Singular too. Zonda still doesn't die though, and the flashbang headshot onto a Ting means they don't get that one out. All that actually happens is Flash Wolves get stalled. They don't get routed.
And their stall is better than nothing though, so Hong Kong Attitude at least have to take that silver lining and get as much distance as they can out of it, because Flash Wolves, they don't even get stalled for long. They regroup and they re-attack rather quickly, already straight back onto that cart. Already Hong Kong Attitude have to get that stall on the cart themselves. Now comes the sound barrier.
Oh, Shaolin showing his face too early, and the sound barrier couldn't save him. Mui is well going down, and without these DPSs, they need this Transcendence quick smart to save the team. Pulls it out, but Randy pulls out the Primal Ridge anyway, and they don't actually save Randy's mech. That was the member who was low, and now Hong Kong Attitude sorely on the back foot here. Mui is going to be onto this maid to stall, but they need kills. Kills are king. Respawns don't do anything, stalls don't do anything, and no one on Flash Wolves has died just yet. The Deadeye is going to be there to zone these members now at the end of it, and Mui goes down to it. This is sure to be a cap from Flash Wolves, short of a miracle from Hong Kong Attitude, but the pressure is just too great. The dive from Matingi gets flashbanged up, and he's not going to last much longer as he follows his fellow tank to the grave here. Only a few members left for Hong Kong Attitude.
Now it's just Hong Kong Attitude trying to buy the last few minutes as Flash Wolves cap it over, and the prophecy does come true. A 3-1 victory. You didn't want to go to Escort on a match point. That's exactly what happened, and Flash Wolves, they finish up.
And the truth is, Hong Kong Attitude, I mean, maybe they can do better, maybe they can't, but they certainly didn't show up tonight. And there were moments where they did. You wonder if consistency is the thing that's holding this team back now from pushing even further up. They've had such a meteoric rise throughout the halfway point of Season 1 that they carried on into Season 2. It has earned them the spot in 3rd place, but with this loss now to Flash Wolves, they're going to go no further. And with AHQ hot on their heels, that 3rd place spot isn't even secure anymore. You need to stay ahead of AHQ just so that you can rematch Flash Wolves in the semi-finals. But you've got to believe the Flash Wolves could win that one too.
Well, if anything else, well, I guess with nothing else, though, Hong Kong Attitude really pushed Flash Wolves. No, that's not a win, but it's something they can work with and take away, reassess, and come back to in the semi-final with, under the assumption that Hong Kong Attitude continue staying into the playoffs position so far, because Flash Wolves, with that victory 3-1, they've now maintained their 2nd place spot.
And it is indeed a 3-1, a close 3-1, and I mean, the scoreline doesn't tell the whole story, but it doesn't tell it in a very odd kind of way, because realistically, Flash Wolves made, I think, the costliest mistake I have seen so far in OPC, and it gave Hong Kong Attitude a Lijiang Tower win. They did win a map fair and square, though, Hong Kong Attitude, so it's hard to say that empirically. Then Assault, going to, what, triple Time Bank and then Golden Point, which was Nepal, which then went over to Flash Wolves, was constantly within striking distance of Hong Kong Attitude, but never got closed out. But on the other two, where Flash Wolves also picked up wins, they were commandeering wins. So 3-1 may be the scoreline, but the whole way through, Flash Wolves were in the driver's seat. Look, it was always Hong Kong Attitude who, kind of had the onus on them to take out Flash Wolves, to perform and show up the team that is ahead of them in the standings. But I was still surprised at how ahead Flash Wolves felt the whole series.
And it's interesting you mentioned that Assault was the turning point, because I also felt that Assault was where Hong Kong Attitude needed to get their win. You talk about the fact that there are some expected victories here, and you look at Control, that needs to be an expected victory for Hong Kong Attitude, and it was. You look at the Icon World, that needed to be expected victory for Flash Wolves, and it was. But as soon as you went to Assault, you got to think, Hong Kong Attitude, they were in the lead, they had the time bank lead for the majority of the time, but they could never finish it, even though we went to the Golden Cap. Look, it was Nepal, and it wasn't a good showing from Hong Kong Attitude. Let's take a look now at the player of the game. It goes on to Zonda on the McCree, who at the end of the day, when you look at Route 66, he was in control.
And I think that is very well deserved. I mean, I mentioned it during the game. He was just so untouched. Look, part of that is misprioritization from Hong Kong Attitude. I will admit as well, it is hard to get far enough deep onto Zonda. That is the strength of Hong Kong Attitude, to allow him that space to go untouched, and also Zonda to kind of cover himself when someone does start getting close. He's really good at doing that. He seldom dies on McCree. It's a combination of him and the team, but the part that is all him is what he's able to do with that space he gets given by the team. The fact that he is always pumping out damage. It's damage that goes unanswered, and it's damage that goes unmatched so often. And it ended up being what pushed it over the line on Route 66.
Yeah, he needed to have a good performance on the McCree as well, because there had been some questions raised about that. Specifically, you got to look at Lijiang Tower, because he got shut down consistently. Every Deadeye Shilin was there. Even the one Deadeye that Shilin didn't kill him, he was just forced to cancel early because the threat was so large and so prevalent. So Lijiang Tower, the McCree, was a bit of a letdown, but throughout the evening he started to pick up again, and then it righted in for Route 66. He brought it home.
And it was like, there was a kind of poetic justice moment as well. He channeled out the Deadeye just to zone, and Shilin started coming around the side, and Zonda read it, right? He turned around and instantly grabbed Shilin, right? And Shilin was getting all those kills on Lijiang Tower because, in truth, Zonda was making the mistake of not covering that side, not anticipating Shilin's entrance. Shilin, expecting he could do it again on Route 66, maybe that's a little bit of hubris. Maybe he should have actually just held tight, kept himself around the side, because look, sure, the team got zoned, but at least no one died. That is until you poked your head out, Shailin, and died, and then there's a numbers advantage.
Well, it's a case of the fact that you condition players into certain things. So for Zonda, he was
a Pavlovian response.
He was conditioned defensively to respect Shailin a lot, and on the other hand, Shailin was conditioned to go aggressive on Zonda during the Deadeyes because he knows, look, this has worked so many times for me. If I go into Zonda mid Deadeye, I'm going to kill him before it works, and that actually happened on other maps, including Eichenwald. It was still Shailin shutting down Zonda, but finally on Route 66, it was the other way around, and it only needs to turn around one time for Flash Wolves to really make it count.
And it was just this really, I mean, it's an odd situation, but I suppose the thing I really want to compliment about that is the fact that, yeah, there was that conditioning there and Zonda responded to it. He expected Shailin at the end, and that is when it counted the most as well. And Shailin just didn't really stay that one step ahead, which he actually potentially could have. And that's the thing, right? I mentioned it at various junctures throughout. It really didn't feel like Hong Kong Attitude did a good job of reacting to what Flash Wolves are doing. And at the end, Flash Wolves did react to Hong Kong Attitude. Let's now jump into short, brief words from Zonda.
雷龙打今天很累哎。
So is it pretty tight today?
还好啦
Yeah, it's not too bad.
今天除了你们队伍上自身的一些状况之外，是不是 HK 感觉整体提
So you
升？
talked about the fact that you guys haven't performed well, but how do you feel about that?
进步啊，然后我们
I feel like Hong Kong Attitude
也有
have
进步。
improved a lot,
那
but we
今
also
天的
improved
状
more.
况，你觉得？
So how do you feel about the overall performance?
一路碾压了，但是就是出现了
I feel like
就是集火的问题。
we just made it work. There were still a lot of issues there.
各打各。如果我们今天集火做漂亮一点的话，我们可能。
But I think if we were more consistent, this would have been a more comfortable series.
对，没有那么细腻。对。
是说会战处理之外，你今天这个拳王好像有卡。
So I feel like your Doomfist.
那个大绝怎么没落地啊？
It feels like your Doomfist ultimates were a bit weird.
就是瞄很准嘛，就是。
I feel like
要预判嘛。
the media strike has a very specific pixel of where you land that I didn't get correct a few times.
然后你按的时候没办法改变那个轨迹。
I feel like once you've committed to it as well, you can't change where you land. So.
我也希望不会再有第三次了。那最后
应该会有啦，只是不知道什么时候。
尽量避免，尽量避免。好了，在最后一场比赛的时候，还在想说，会选哪一张图？结果竟然选了一个
if you got to hybrid
出现的66号公路，这个考量是。
这考量是我们团练。
So sorry, I was asking about the choice of Route 66, and he's saying that is something we practice a lot.
其他张地图选一个最稳的。
对啊，
Do you feel like this is a stable map for you?
是这张会比较好啦。
I feel like this was
打别张，然后后来觉得说
it was a good pick.
只会拿害影的话，这张好像
I feel like
比较好。
you know we expected the Sombra as well, and this was a good map for us to counter out the Sombra if they wanted to do that.
我想问一下，就是你今天的比赛走位其实有比过去小心非常多。那想了解一下，你是不是有在训练方式，还是在思考的
So in your practice,
改变？
what did you change about your
太
playstyle?
大的改变啊，是比较注意的是他们刺客的方向。
So when I ult, I really look out for
了解了解，
other DPS players coming onto me.
准备的时间这样。
对对对对。
好，那第二个问题是，我想问一下，就是聊天室常提到说你是闪电狼的破口跟角色值的问题，你有什么想法？
没什么想法，就他们跟我比较熟嘛，所以比较会嘴我嘛。
了解，
不好嘴其他人。
了解了解。
担任队里的某个意义上的坦克的意思就对了。
没关系没关系没关系。
其实这个才是真正的 carry， 因为整个队伍最重要的。
So it feels like you did do a bit of carrying today.
有人去扛。
我看。
Yeah, I feel like I did a good job.
你获得今天胜利，也希望你们队伍状况快点调整好。
So I feel hope Flash Wolves and I hope you have success in sort of improving your play and feeling better about the way you've been playing this all. So there it is, final thoughts from Flash Wolves after taking out that very long and very intense 3-1.
Yeah, but a well-earned one at the end of the day. And now with that, you've got to actually say, if you're Flash Wolves, you'll feel good if Hong Kong Attitude do finish third, because they'll be who you play in the semi-finals and you've never lost to them. That's about as good as it can get right now for Flash Wolves, who are also now, by not losing that, fairly secure in that second place. They do also still get a chance to take on Ardian one last time this round robin to maybe turn that one back around.
And with that, the second match of the day has concluded. Up next, we're going to have Mega taking on Blank Esports. So one more match still to come, and it's going to be an important one too. Will Blank move forward in the standings? Will they stay where they are? How's Mega going to do? All the questions will be answered after this break.